the chat section.
That whole thing never recorded.
Yeah, I was trying to ask you guys, like, are we recording?
I was starting to wonder myself. I never said earlier, Justin.
Okay, or you can just keep it and we'll. None of that was live. None of what you talked about, Greg. I was sitting here going, "Are we recording?" No one, and then I'm in the group being like, "Are we recording,
ready?
guys?"
No, no, we were not.
Welcome to the Dynasty Hot Sauce Podcast. How's everybody doing? We got Greg, we got Brian, we got Justin. What's up, the Dynasty Hot Sauce Podcast? What's up?
Larry is going to die getting that open.
I'll bring it back. I will bring this back. We may have forgotten about it, but I just brought it back. Greg, we are at the SVB Podathon, and we are going to talk about the Podathon because that's what we ended with at our last episode. And who the hell makes it to the end of an hour and 20-minute pod? But we talked about it in an hour 15, and it does not deserve that type of justice because we are going to be one of how many? 48? 24? Who knows? We will be somewhere in the mix at the SVP Podathon that's going to occur on January 6th at 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 Central, if that's where you live.
In God's name is the SFB Podathon.
SFB Podathon. What did I say?
What in God's name is the SFB Podathon? All right, Larry, shut up. We are going to be appearing on the SFBX Podathon. What's the date of that, you guys? The 6th, the 5th, and the 6th?
It begins July 5th at 8 p.m.
Yeah,
it begins July 5th at 8 p.m. We will be on 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 a.m. Central Time. And I am particularly excited about this because I watched the whole thing last year, and Sal butchered my name during explosive output
Now, your name rhymes with perfume.
Yeah, my name rhymes with perfume. Jesus. So I was really excited about Sal saying my name.
It rhymes with perfume, but it's got like 19 letters, right?
How many syllables is that?
It does not look like how it sounds.
It has 10
it's one of
letters.
those names. You're like,
it has 2 syllables.
Too many.
It is a very, very special.
Too many letters, not enough syllables. They don't add up.
And I love it dearly.
In case anyone is wondering if you hear this, we've already done this once because Larry forgot to push the damn record button. So poor Greg.
50 of you are there. 50 of you are listening.
This is our second go round.
Edit that part out where I just called you out, Larry. Don't you dare edit that out.
The name story is much more down to earth the first go round.
I only cut out the awkward pauses, which are mainly me. So
shut up, Larry.
That'll stay there.
So anyway, we will be on at 1:30 a.m. Central Time. I hope you all tune in and donate lots of money because we want to get real popular and famous.
Greg's main goal.
I am really scared personally, to be totally honest with you. I think this is a big deal. I've always thought this SFB is a big deal. So
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to tell you what I'm interested in doing right now for the SFB Podathon, and I'm just going to get up for a second.
Okay. Larry is getting up and walking away from his camera.
Okay. Great pot. Yep.
I'm scared.
He's showing us.
He's got a jersey.
He's got a jersey of some type. It's blue. It's a DJ Chark Jr. jersey.
Can I win that?
So brand spanking new tags on there. Yep. Uh-huh. What are you gonna do with that?
I'm happy to give this away during the Podathon.
Excellent.
I feel like
so. How do you plan on
it was perfectly folded, and I just ruined the fold. But
well, that's okay because you're a stay-at-home dad, so you can probably fold the hell out of that thing.
Just lay it over something, Larry.
I don't know if I could fold it as perfectly as it was, but I feel like I just want people to know that it was folded in a bag, and now it's just unfolded out of the bag.
Let's discuss this.
The whole it's whatever. You know,
let's discuss this week and announce next week how we're going to give it away during the pod. How about that? So tune in next week.
Fantastic idea.
Tune in next week to find out how you're going to win that thing during the SFB Podathon next week.
Love it. Great idea, Justin. Great idea. Tune in next week to find out how to win the DJ Chark jersey during the SFB Podathon, which airs on July 5th. Oh, July 6th.
We're technically July 6th. Yep.
Yes. I mean, that's another thing that's amazing. I mean, it's July 5th, July 6th. It's really the first evening. Like, this is when everybody's, everyone's running, they're kind of running out of gas at the end. I would imagine, like, we're going to be raring to go at 2:30. I cannot get over the fact that we are in, I'm just looking at this as we're in, like, the best spot ever. Everyone's coming back from the bar that they're probably not allowed to be at and not wearing a mask, whatever. I don't know. I feel like everyone's going to be asleep. Who knows? But hopefully they're not. If they want to win a DJ Chark jersey,
it isn't the
I
worst.
can't wait till you have to.
It isn't the worst.
I
time
really
to
hope
be
you
on.
have to ship that thing to England.
I really hope I don't have to ship it. Well, you guys aren't eligible, so fuck all y'all. How about that?
Damn. Just like that, man.
Just so harsh.
Damn.
I've never heard any of you guys talk.
It's okay,
good
I've
about
got an
DJ.
idea.
I mean, are you guys DJ Chark guys?
I love DJ
I
Chark.
do too.
Me
What are you
too.
talking about?
I don't think
I
I've
was a
ever
DJ.
heard you guys talk about DJ Chark.
I was a DJ Chark truther.
She's are too hammered to remember.
Other than they made fun of me for owning a DJ Chark jersey, which I've never worn. But I do have. I think on an
You
earlier
have a
pod, I
giant
made fun
fathead of
for owning
Darnold
a
behind
DJ
you.
Chark.
I cannot recall.
Oh, you know what? Listen,
I can't even
this
recall.
is the year for Darnold, man.
Oh boy,
I
this is it.
situate myself here. So
It either.
Who's your head coach?
Adam Gase.
Yikes.
Yeah, no, it's not. It ain't nobody's year in New York with Adam Gase at the helm.
Listen,
That's Miami.
Hey, it could be Denzel Mims' year. In fact, I think Larry tried to ask him the other night if it was his year.
yes, that is true. I DM'd Mims. We love Mims so much. Why can't I DM? Why can't I fucking send Mims a DM? Why can't?
Wait,
Why
okay,
can't?
Larry. You tried to slide into Denzel's DMs at what time? Like 1 a.m. or something?
Oh
like,
my
hey,
God, that's a great question.
Like, hey boy, how you doing?
I
Oh my
cannot wait
God.
to see what time I slid into Denzel Mims.
We love you, Mims. We want you to do so well. We're sorry about
No,
your head
it
coach.
wasn't like
We
that.
apologize about
I'm
that.
not
Baby,
that.
He loves tacos.
Baby, I love you.
No.
What you doing?
You have to know that that's not who I am when it comes to fucking.
Hey, Mims.
After you've had a few drinks,
This is Larry Monkey. You want to come on a podcast with me?
You want to hear the
Hey, Mims,
exact?
you want to know if you want to come on our podcast?
okay, Larry, let's hear what you wrote to the poor guy.
I DM'd him at 10:56 a.m. on Thursday. I DM'd Denzel Mims. Would you like to hear the direct message that I sent to him?
Yes.
Are you sure it's AM?
It says
Yeah,
Thursday, 10:56 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Uh-huh.
Are you drunk and can't read PM and AM right now? There's no way you did that in the morning.
I can't even believe that I told you guys that I DM'd Denzel Mims.
God.
When
I
was
can't
that?
believe you actually
when did I
DM'd
DM
him,
you guys? Friday night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told you
Saturday
Friday
night.
night I DM'd Denzel
Friday night,
Mims.
Saturday night, something like that.
Here, I'll pull that up while you read the damn. What's it
All right,
called?
okay.
Yeah.
So this is me Thursday night at 10:56 a.m. Thursday morning. Hey Denzel.
Jeez
How
Christ.
would
Coming in
you
strong.
start?
Best start ever.
Greg, how would you start a DM?
Coming in hot.
to Mims? How would you start a DM
Mr.
to Denzel Mims?
Mr. Mims might have been a good start to it. I don't know.
Mr. Mims. Okay, first of all, Greg would never do that. Greg would
No.
never do that.
Greg,
Dude,
if we told him
Greg
Denzel Mims
would-
wanted to talk to him, Greg still would never hit him up.
Greg wouldn't even tag him in a tweet.
Greg, are
much
you
less
not-
slide into his DMs.
you are not going to slide into Denzel Mims. How of all of us, why wouldn't you be in charge of sliding into Denzel Mims's DMs?
It's just
You're the-
not.
Because you're the only one insane enough to do it.
Yeah,
You're
you're just a wild man.
Seriously, if you did that at
Now-
10:56 fucking in the morning, like a regular normal time, what the hell
Like
is
before
wrong
lunch.
with you with the brain? That is that's like me texting some
Now-
girl like 10
now,
years
hold on.
ago at 2 in the
Now that
morning.
we-
Hey, what you doing? You know,
we do have to thank him for this bravado. I'm going to call it. Let's just call it bravado. That's why we're in the
That's true. That's
SFBX
true.
Podathon.
The dude will jump into anybody's.
It's that
DM,
level of
so that's true.
it's that level of I don't care that Larry brings to our table.
So, Larry, you texted us this.
All I
You
got.
messaged us at 10:45 p.m. on Friday night.
Yeah.
You were like, I DM'd Mims, and all of us were like, oh shit, what? Huh? What?
I believe my quote was, "We're all getting blocked."
So just in the interest of clarity for the listeners, if we still have any after this,
Come on.
is all you messaged him? Hey, Denzel.
Oh no way, dude.
No.
Will you
Okay,
read
well,
the
there's
rest of
more
it,
to this.
please? Will you please read the rest of it?
He wrote a-
Oh fuck!
he
There's
wrote
a lot of
fucking
text.
essay. Let's read. Okay.
Will you read it, please? Read it.
Read it. All right, shut up!
dissertation.
Shut up! Let him read it.
I'm happy to read this. I can't. I'm so laughing. All right. Hey, Denzel. Howard, you can start out a conversation with Denzel Mims.
No, I just want
I mean,
you to just
you
read the
can
damn
start
thing. Go.
Just read it.
Hey,
Go,
Denzel.
go.
All right, there we go. Hey, Denzel. I host a podcast with three guys about fantasy football called the Dynasty Hot Sauce Podcast. We are all huge Denzel Mims fans. I'm a Jets fan, and my co-host loved you a Baylor. So we're all in on the Mims train. Any chance you want to come on the podcast and chop it up with us?
Yes, I knew he was gonna ask
Hey,
her. Yes.
Larry Monkey, motherfucker!
Dude, if he somehow checks his DMs and he's scrolling through like all the hot chicks that are DMing and he sees like Larry Monkey and he pulls that up and he goes, hey, you know what? I'll do a podcast. You win the DJ Chark jersey, okay?
And then I sent him the fucking
Yes,
latest.
I agree.
I sent him our last one. I sent him the
Oh.
sanitizer championship belt. I sent him, and I said our latest episode. I dropped him the latest episode for him to listen to.
Oh fuck!
Listen, I'm Denzel Mims, and somebody sends me a podcast that's called the Dynasty Hot Sauce Pod. I might give it 5 minutes.
No, if I'm
listen.
okay, I'll be honest with you. If I'm Denzel Mims and someone sends me a fantasy football dynasty podcast,
I didn't
I'm
say
like,
Dynasty because I didn't want to weird him out.
I'm hitting the block thing. I really think you should have read that
Oh my god!
like this. You should have read like, "Hey Denzel,
Ah!
hey, I host a fantasy
How you
podcast
doing?
with
Come on.
4 guys, and we'd love to have you on sometime."
Fucking
Mhm.
Justin is over here.
You know what? New segment. Larry's got a message a new NFL player every week until
Every
one
week.
responds to us.
Until we
No,
get
Every
one
week.
response.
no.
Greg,
Letters
this
from
is a great
Larry.
idea. Greg,
Letters
we'll
from
get-
Larry.
we will-
New segment.
We'll get like a bad
I
name
love
in
it.
the industry itself.
Greg,
But we'll have a name.
They hate us already. Football players generally hate fantasy.
Listen,
Can I
They
fucking
do.
DM
They do.
him?
They do. You're right.
But-
Justin.
but-
You're right.
But the difference
Melvin
is
Gordon doesn't. Message Melvin Gordon.
No, but the difference is none of us will ever run on Twitter and dog a player like at them or anything for whatever they did because that's ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
I'd much rather have a player like if we
Hey,
can
hey,
ever get a
get
player
Juju.
on, it'll be the
Juju's
most
cool.
positive experience of their life because
Juju.
all I will do is fawn
Hit
at
up-
their feet.
Hit up Juju. He's cool as shit. He'll answer us.
Juju probably gets 1,000 DMs a day from everyone thinking he's so damn cool.
Fuck.
Like,
All right. So what? Okay. So let's dissect my message to
no, come on, let's move on. We've gone
mean-
through this.
What could I have done better? I mean, should I have done something different, or
I mean,
should
you
just
could've
I?
sent nudes or something, but that would have been weird. If
Nudes?
that's not what he's into. I don't know.
All right.
Like,
All right.
Belt nudes. You got to get the belt on.
I should have sent him a picture of me with just the belt on. That could have been He could have been the first guy.
I'm a
well,
champion.
That's
I can't-
exactly what Greg wants you to do.
I
Greg
can't send him.
wants
Yeah, I know. I can't send him a picture of me wearing the HQ
Sunshine
belt
and
when I
fucking
don't even know him.
rainbows is what Greg's got going on his shirt. That's how he's feeling right now.
Okay. So,
All right, so we gonna talk some football or what? We've gone through
do it. Yes, do it.
these poor
Man.
listeners.
We're 20 minutes in. Not one fantasy analyst has spoken up. Greg, that's your fault. You're the fantasy analyst.
Oh,
There's-
is that a Scott Fishbowl reference?
There's two.
Yes.
There's two of you
Yes,
guys.
it is.
Two of you analysts in the Scott
There are
Fishbowl. We got to
two
get some
fantasy
analysis going.
analysts on this pod. Right
Fan.
Hey, wait. Let's do oh wait. I'm trying to high five Greg, but I don't even know which way I'm going here.
Yeah. Okay. You go down and to your left, and Greg, you go up to your right. Yeah.
I'm just.
Brian, I got
You guys would have sucked in the Brady
High
Bunch.
five. You
There
guys
you go,
wouldn't
Brian.
understand.
This is weird. Oh yeah. Okay, here I got you. There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So
Come
I'm
on.
not familiar with the settings with the
It's-
Scott Fishbowl. Are you familiar with the settings of the Scott Fishbowl? Because I am not.
It's 2 weeks away. What the hell? Who's stared
Hmm.
at the settings yet?
Well, they've
All
had
I
mock
remember-
drafts. I haven't been a
All I
part of
know
them
is-
because of all these damn eliminators I'm in.
Yeah.
Which
All I
are
know
made-
is 6 point -4 for interceptions and the completion percentage stuff, like the 1 and negative.
Passing is 6. Passing yards is 0.04. Completions 0.5. Incompletions -1 point each.
So what is it geared
Is-
to?
No,
Are these the
interceptions.
same-
The incompletions are
Incompletions are -1. Completions are 0.6, right?
are
Or
0.4.
Oh, okay.
No, completions are 0.5.
0.5. Okay. So
Yeah.
you have to have a 67% completion percentage to break even on that. Which
Yep.
okay, so I was listening to I can't remember who it was, honestly, and I feel bad because they're a much bigger name than we are, but they were saying that there were like 8 quarterbacks that hit 67% or whatever, and only 8 quarterbacks or only 7 quarterbacks or something like that didn't have a negative game last year. Like even the only player that had a game whose worst game was better than 4 points was Patrick Mahomes, who had his worst game was 11. Even Lamar Jackson had like a 4-point game. Like the superflex spot could be a really treacherous spot for you if you throw out, like Darnold had like a -28 game against the Patriots. It was something silly like that. I can't remember. 26, 28. It was bad. So
That sounds
Yes.
like a Darnold game.
He's really attempted to make it so you can really get away with starting another position in your superflex other than a quarterback. Like you may be choosing between Crowder and Darnold one week, like legit
Really?
for
Yeah.
your superflex
Yeah.
spot. Oh
The
yeah,
quarterback has no value in this one.
well, Larry, it's what I was saying. No. The quarterback has value, but there are times when in a bad matchup, a quarterback can screw you because they can really go negative big time.
If you
Darnold
think-
against the Patriots went -26 or something like that. 26, 28, something
Is
like
it
that.
just because of picks or what? What's the negative point?
Yeah, picks,
Larry.
and then
When the quarterbacks throw an interception, it's -1 point. Or an
Well,
incompletion.
last
An
year was
incompletion.
-4.
Yeah, an
When they throw an
incompletion,
incompletion, it's -1 point.
Okay.
if they throw a completion, it's 0.5. So say a guy goes like 12 for 28, has one of those crazy bad games where he gets 0.6 or he gets 6 points from those completions, but he gets -28, so he's gone -22 just on his completion percentage, basically. I mean, it's nuts. So yeah, there's times where like a bad matchup you might want to bench a quarterback. So
That's when you want a Lamar Jackson or a Russell Wilson, who they have limited. There's a big time rushing upside and limited interceptions.
the
Yeah.
interceptions aren't what really kills. I mean, yeah, they definitely affect things, but
So you're saying that
was
Drew Brees
completion
is
percentage.
a top QB.
No. Drew Brees, I think, was like the 6th or 7th quarterback last year, which was fine,
Really?
even though he only played like 12 games. But
Right.
he also had a game where he had like 1 point. I mean, it's just weird. There's matchups where if you have one of those mid range like 15 to 20 quarterbacks, if you've got a Jimmy G or a Sam Darnold or Ryan Tannehill, and you might want to bench him when they go against San Fran or Pittsburgh or New England.
Couldn't like somebody like Teddy B be interesting in those matchups though, where they generally throw short, high percentage throws?
That's-
One of the guys that like a sneaky one is Derek Carr, because he throws he's a dink and dunk guy, so he's always a high completion percentage, which favors that kind of system, this kind of scoring setup. Because
Kind
a guy
of-
who's go ahead.
Just from looking at this the little bit that I did, it looks to me like this is a Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Teddy Bridgewater, like you mentioned, Brian. This is the type of scoring setting where they're going to excel because they're just not going to risk the football. So
Well,
Yeah, they don't throw a lot of deep I mean, they throw some, but not enough to
Right, exactly. So
to hurt him.
the shorter stuff, especially
Like
with
a
the
Winston.
yes, and especially with the teams that are around a Bridgewater, a Breeze, a Brady, where just about everybody is a halfway decent to good pass catcher. Especially with the teams that are around a Bridgewater, a Breeze, a Brady, where just about everybody is a halfway.
Who's got the YouTube channel open? Larry, do you have the YouTube channel?
Larry.
Or the other StreamYard or something on?
Goddamn host is fucking backfeeding the shit out of us.
Guess what? We're good. We're good. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, you can't have both of them open because otherwise we're going to get that.
I'm just getting things sorted out here.
He's gonna start commenting on the YouTube stream like these guys are dumb.
Right.
Go Mims.
So that's kind of what I'm getting out of it. Although we may get into it later, but I'm picking at 104, and I'm hoping that Mahomes or Jackson slips to me. To be honest with you,
I have no idea where this fan is gonna pick. I'm not sure yet. I didn't pick a choice. I just went ahead and rolled the dice, see where I end up.
Brian, just do it, man.
So I'll be curious to find out.
Pick your poison, man. Don't wait for that fucking.
you have not been
I
placed
don't want
yet,
to pick
Brian?
my poison. I feel like, not that I noticed. I haven't looked in a little while today if he's updated again or not. But
Hey guys, I figured out.
someone was just
I'm going to interrupt because I found the pod and it's a good listen. It's a Superflex Super Show, episode 154. There is no value. They got Addison Hayes on there, and he was talking about he plugged in players and looked at numbers and things like that. And he's offering his cheat sheet for $1. So keep an eye on that. I bet it's on his. I'm gonna go to his Twitter real quick and see if it's there. But that's a good listen for anybody that's really wants to get into some scoring stuff, especially with quarterbacks.
Is it specific to this scoring
It's
setting?
Scottish.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
154. You said
Huh?
154.
154. Yep. 154. They had some really interesting stats about especially quarterback because that's what they do. So
I'm not sure if either one of you, Larry or Brian, subscribe to Player Profiler either, but they have Scott Fishbowl rankings up right now too.
Interesting. Well, so what's the top five?
I haven't subscribed yet. I meant to before this podcast, but I was busy playing video games with my girlfriend today. So
that's interesting.
But I'm going to go subscribe to Player Profiler. It's not cheap, but I want those rankings.
what is the Player Profiler subscription? Anybody know off the top of their head?
85, and then you get a $35 voucher for a FFPC Dynasty League.
Gotcha.
Or Best Ball League, I think. So it's really $50.
$50.
If you count the voucher as, money.
Yeah. I gotcha.
But I believe the all-in package is $85. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that probably as soon as we're done here.
you just send me your password.
How many sites do you guys subscribe to? Like how many?
I only right now I only subscribe to DLF.
I do nerd.
Same
I just
here.
joined the nerds and I do DLF.
Yep, I'm a nerd. I'm a
I
nerd.
used to be the nerds.
I love that they're both different, but they're kind of the same. That's what I appreciate about them. There's a little diversity about their I guess ideology or whatever.
The only reason I always go to Wendy's, I'm really
Drinking.
terrible about reading. Dun, 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 dun,
DLF's
dun.
great. All right. Can we? So let's talk about eliminators. I mean,
Wait,
Jesus,
I mean-
these are.
Is he skipping
Is
out
he
for
freezing or
everybody
is that
else?
just-
Yeah, I can't
Larry,
hear you.
your internet's
Yes.
bad.
Consumed our lives for the past couple of
Larry,
weeks.
your shit
This
sucks.
this podcast is horse shit. My God,
I'm gonna open up the YouTube and see
makes
if
me want to
anybody's-
Oh,
smoke.
Hey, look how uppity he is when it's not his connection. How fucking uppity he is.
Woo.
Where'd you go to smoke? Where's Greg going to smoke?
You want to go?
He doesn't realize
You
that
stressed him
it's
out.
so
He's
much
gotta go
easier to
smoke.
cut out like 10 minutes than it is to like snip it out like every 5 seconds.
Now he's going downstairs.
Are you?
Are we just taking a little break then?
Look at that guy with the
I
downstairs.
don't know what's going on
And now we shall
We
hear
gotta
from our sponsors.
here.
Nobody, just us. It's just us. There's no sponsors. It's just
Right when I just put this
Larry.
out, I actually just put this out on YouTube.
Yeah, I've got the YouTube.
So I just put this out on YouTube.
I've got the YouTube open, so I liked it. There you go.
Ow.
No one's listening, but I don't know. Maybe I'm in.
I don't blame him.
But yeah, well, this is fine because I mean, it takes me. I
He's
have
back.
no time. I have no time to edit tomorrow. Guess who's back in the motherfucking house with a fat dick for your motherfucking mouth?
Jesus
Is that how the
Christ.
song goes? Or no?
Yes, yes, it
All
is.
right. All right.
Yep.
Now we come to the time of the episode where we guess how many beers Larry is into.
I'm
it's
gonna put the over.
9.
No, we're not gonna.
I'm
Oh,
guessing
it's
9.
Over underline 5.5.
I'm ready.
5.5. You
Oh,
got the
over.
Brian. What do you
Fucking
got?
over.
I don't know.
5.5 on Larry's beers.
5.5. What's 5.5?
Larry's beers. What do you got, Greg?
What's
Don't
up?
answer, Larry. Hold on. Brian's taking the.
Let me get a fresh one. I'm gonna get a brand new one.
So
I'm gonna
Brian,
get a brand new
Greg's taking the under. Oh, you're taking the over, Greg. How many you got? All right,
one.
Larry.
What's the question?
So
Larry, how
on
many
what?
are you into?
I set the 5.5.
How many beers you drank today?
Let's see here.
So you drank 5 beers today. That's the question.
No, I put the over
I'm
under
gonna get one.
5.5. The boys took it at over.
Are
Getting
we
one-
live? Are we live on YouTube right now? Because
Hell yeah, we are. But
this
there's no
is-
one there. Don't worry.
Yes. Yes, we are.
There's no one there. Don't worry.
Okay, good. I hope nobody's
checked.
watching this because
I checked. It's excellent audio. I mean, poor Larry's gonna have to edit like 30 minutes out because he's over there wandering around.
this should be a lost episode.
What, Larry? Did he go
Nah.
pull the beers out of the trash can or something? Where did he go? Hey, this is great practice for the podathon. This is it. This is what we're gonna be on the podathon. I really think we shouldn't talk of one lick of football.
You guys ready, man? For the podathon? I'm ready for the podathon, man. Greg, if you're not looking like this in the podathon, we all need to look exactly like
No,
this.
you're not lying. We should totally do this. I'm in, Larry.
All
I'm gonna go to
need to
fucking
look
Party
like this
City
for the
or whatever.
podathon.
I'm gonna go to Party City.
Am I allowed to leave the house till-
this week? I'm in.
We'll have to send something to Brian.
You can't get a wig,
So,
Brian.
Greg, are you in or not?
You in, Greggles?
Yeah, he is. Don't shake your head.
Come
You're in.
on.
As a
You're in, Greg.
You know what?
It's a podcast. Nobody
Want
can
to know
hear
what
that
I
dumb
was
shit.
thinking that we would do? We would all just get a Podathon T-shirt, and I'll wear a Podathon T-shirt. That's
Greg,
as
that's
extreme.
so
That's as
fucking
extreme as my thinking gets.
Greg, do you want to be memorable?
Greg,
If we're gonna be
You're the
memorable,
wrong host for
Larry's
that,
on the
Greggles.
right track. So at the bar, I used to
I
work
like
at
it.
a bar.
I like it.
I
I'm
used
ready,
to work at a
man.
bar, and we had a box of wigs and hats and all kinds of shit. And when the party got going crazy on like a Friday or Saturday night, we would all run back there, throw on the craziest fucking outfits and wigs, and come out and bartend. And it was like 4 of us behind the bar, it'd be like 4 or 5 deep, and it was so much fun. Like, we should totally do
check
that.
out the jersey.
I'm with Cap.
Bam.
Oh, my man.
Oh,
my
I love
man.
that.
My man.
I
Yeah, it just came in the mail today.
kind of-
It was a perfect. That was my Father's Day present to myself.
I love that, Larry.
Anyway,
I can
go
dig
ahead.
it.
I was kind of hoping we'd be more memorable for maybe the money we give and the money maybe Larry raises with that jersey or something. I seriously don't want to be remembered for wearing wigs and silly clothes. I seriously don't.
What do you? What? Why are we remembering you right now? For what? Right this second. For what? What are we remembering you?
For telling you that this is a bad idea. That's why you'll remember me. For being totally dead honest with you, man.
We
That-
should be
dude.
completely eccentric.
Listen, 90% of our ideas have been bad, and it's been panning out for us so far. I say we just roll into this train and keep
Greg.
going.
Greg, come on, man. I'm
I know.
ready to
We're-
sing
we're
a fucking
trying
Van
to
Halen
drag
song.
We're
Pick a
trying to
Van
drag-
Halen song. I'm singing it.
We're trying to drag Greg out of a very tight comfort zone, so we're gonna have to
Yes.
we're gonna have to pound on all week long for 2 weeks.
Greg,
Kicking
we're
and
live on
screaming.
YouTube
We are
right
dragging him out of this comfort zone.
Larry,
If someone
you've got
got
his
search for the Hot Sauce Podcast right now, this YouTube link would come on. They'd be watching us right now. This second.
Larry, you've got
Yeah.
his address. I can send him a wig. You've got his address because he sent you something. He sent you a fancy belt. So unless you weren't creepy and you didn't write down his address.
What?
You've got his address, so just let me know his address. I'll send him a wig.
Dang it! I
No,
wish I know. I
look
threw
at
it
that
out,
head.
man. I threw it out.
Look at that head. He needs a wig
Greg,
anyway.
are you upset with this look, man? Are you really upset with this look?
No, I just don't think we should all show up on that podcast looking like this, you guys. I really don't. I don't want to be. I don't want to be a joke. I don't want to be remembered for being some type of gimmicky joke. I'd rather talk about Larry.
Listen, I think
I'd rather talk about how much money we
I
raised
think-
with this
I think in
jersey
this-
that we're going to give away, and how much money we're going to give, and all the eliminators that we were in, and I don't know, man. Seriously, we're going to talk.
Listen, I think in today's
we're going to
day
talk
and
for
age-
like 20 minutes. It's going to be very short. It's going to be
That's
really
what I
short.
It's gonna go by real fast.
Where-
It's gonna by real
this
fast.
is a flashbang type society. We got to make ourselves stand out. We got to Lady Gaga the shit out of this thing if we want to have a name out there.
I'm gonna come in
It
with
worked
like
for her.
I'm gonna come in with like whipped cream titties.
Greg, come on, man.
The whipped cream bikini always gets them.
I thought Greg was gonna go with the fucking USA banana hammock.
Uh,
I like it.
all right. Well, let's reel it back in because who knows how much editing Larry has to do at this point. So
Oh, I don't. I like.
A lot.
I really. Yes.
I'm
go
going to
ahead.
be willing to bet he's going to have to cut the first 31 and 46 seconds.
It's gonna be the intro, and then about 40 minutes into
We
the
haven't
episode.
talked about anything helpful, anything
Do we
productive. We
do we
can't
wanna
even
talk
stay
about-
on
We
topic.
really haven't.
We can't
What's the
even
topic?
stay on topic.
So do we want to talk about
We're a little off tonight. We
want to talk about eliminators or the DDCL rookie draft? Where we want to go first?
We'll go DDCL because
All right.
I've
Brian
got
calls
the
it.
best story for all of us on this.
All right.
The grass is
I
killing for this.
had one pick this year.
I don't know
I
what.
had one-
Let's pretend that I don't know what the
Hold on.
DDCL is.
Okay.
Can
The
we
di-
explain what this is?
Diagnostic,
to me?
It's the Dynasty Diagnostic Championship League. It's 4 different leagues on one system in NFL. So it's a 4-copy league, but each division has their own championship, and it's a relegation and promotion league. So, and I've not even looked to see. I just joined it this year, but it's one of those where the top 1, 2, 3. I haven't looked to see which teams get promoted. and
Top
which-
4.
Top 4 get promoted. Top
Top
4.
Top-
There you go.
Yeah, middle 4 stay in.
All right. So there's the deal.
Go
right there.
Division 1.
So I was part of the brand new startup for the newest class, and Brian and Larry were already in it. They've been waiting for us to finish our draft, and then waiting for a couple orphans to get filled, and they finally get to do their rookie draft. They might be the very last people on the planet to be doing rookie drafts. So
Very true.
Larry, Brian, how was
Okay.
your rookie draft?
Hold on.
I
Can I
had
just
one.
say?
I had.
Go ahead. No,
Can I
wait.
just say-
Let me interrupt.
I had.
Hold
Listen,
on. Let
motherfucker.
me just say this real fast. Hold on. No, because I feel bad because Greg should have been in this league, and he should have had an orphan. And I reached out to Aton back in March or April, and they weren't filling them yet. And he said, "You have a spot. This and that. This and that." Anyway, Outhouse was the guy that filled the spots. So after when it was all said and done, I sent Aton a follow-up message, and he's like, "Oh yeah, man, I'll let you know." He's in. So I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome. All 4 of us are in this league. This is amazing." And then then Outhouse sends a message that the leagues that we're good. Leagues are full. So I sent Outhouse a message, who I'm friendly with, and I'm like, "Yo, dude, are all the orphans filled in DDCL?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yo, I had like the first guy in on the fucking list." And then I sent him a couple screenshots. He was like, "Oh, sorry. Dude, I'm really sorry."
It's all right.
So-
It's not like Greg's
It's
in enough
cool.
leagues.
But I mean,
It's okay. We'll get him in. We'll get him in next year.
I'll cut all this spiel out, but I was upset because all four of us in this league would be amazing.
Yeah, I really wanted to be in, but it's okay.
Fortunately, guys,
It's okay.
we are all four in a league together. So there is this one
course.
league. It's just a little tiny, like 16 team Superflex, start 11 with like 80-man roster leagues. It's fine, it's a simple league.
You're absolutely right.
Nothing to it.
So getting back to Brian with his, Brian has the DDCL, the Diagnostic Champions League, the Dynasty Diagnostic Champions League had their rookie draft, and Brian, let's hear the haul that you took in.
I had one pick. I sold out during the draft last year to try to get in the top division, which, by the way, I did do. I'm in the top division of the DDCL,
the Class S or whatever.
So I had one.
Who are
your
QBs?
Irrelevant, but and Big Ben. Hey, I still made the top 4 in my division, so I'll take it. But I had one pick left. I had the 409, and I fucking timed out.
No, you didn't. Seriously?
I did. No. That's the only time I've ever timed out in a draft. That's the only time I've ever done it.
I'll tell you what.
And I've been paying.
Done it several times in our eliminator. Damn it.
But I did not. That's the important part of this conversation. I have never timed out in draft outside of this one time. I kind of forgot about it for a morning. Didn't realize my pick was that close. And of course, I've been getting a bunch of emails, but only having a 409, like you kind of like, okay, somebody else kind of made a pick. You don't think much about it. And I went to go check it earlier, and it was like draft over, and I'm like, oh, fuck. So I did not realize I had timed out during this pick, so I received 0 rookies this year.
So you just don't get a player?
No.
I just don't get a player.
Oh, that's brutal.
Which rightfully, I mean, it's the 409. I'm not like over here like gonna like. It's not like I missed my fucking first round pick here. I mean, I wasn't gonna get in the 409 anyway. That was super relevant. I'm not like mad about it or anything. It's 110% my fault because I didn't pay attention.
Brutal.
Yeah, if you
so my one pick.
If you had timed out like the 107, that'd be one thing. It's the 409. It's still a dick move. It's still a complete.
Yes, fully admit. Fucked up. My bad, boys. My bad. That's on me. That's on me.
Yeah.
There's
I hope
some
you
top
apologize
RBs
in the chat. I have not been able to keep up with GroupMe lately, but I hope you apologize, you dick.
I did. I said, hey, that's my bad. That's
what's interesting.
Well, Larry did not time out on his like 79 picks. Didn't you have quite a few there, Larry?
I've been in a ton of picks, but real quick, Brian is actually on the clock in the hot sauce pod.
Of course he is. He's on the clock for like 18 hours of the day. Okay, the clock it gets to him, and then we sit. Shit.
So how about I just start rambling, and you can go make your pick, Brian, and then you come back and tell us who you start.
I'll be back.
So yeah, man. I mean, so I've been in. I'm in like 11 eliminators that are happening at the same time. So what I do is this is my move, and it's challenging and it's time consuming, but it's for a great cause, and it's drafting, and it's all amazing. I mean, that's what it is in a nutshell. So every now and again, every couple of hours, every 2 to 3 hours, I will log in to every single one of my leagues.
Yeah,
I'll click all my leagues. So I don't do the app. I go to the website on my cell phone. And I go all my leagues, and they're all there. And I hit. I'll tell you exactly what I do. I do DLF pod, bam, and I just hit back 2 times, and I'm back at the screen. I hit hot sauce pod, boom. I hit Larry Monkey pod, bam. I hit, Tyler Gunther pod, bam. I hit Marcus Grant pod, bam. I just hit all these pods, and I'm bang, bam, 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 bam. And if I am 3 or 4 picks out, I will just pre-draft. Because that's the best way to do it. If you're 3 or 4 picks out, and if you're in multiple drafts, I am, the best way to do it is to just pick 3 or 4 guys. It's a best ball. I mean, you're never going to nail a best ball. So you always have to be close enough. So
the pick is in.
That's my move. The pick is in. This is exciting. What? And this is what, the 5th round? Seventh
This
round?
is the 7th round. Ladies and gentlemen, the 7th round of the
Like Justin Tucker
Hot Sauce
territory or
Fantasy
what?
Cares Eliminator. Pick number
What do you
15.
think?
Where's Brian?
I
We'd
think
like
this
to announce his pick, but Brian is still not in the room.
No.
Anyways,
He has
continue
an
with the
Michael
rookie
Gallup.
pick.
You picked Michael Gallup. What do you think?
He took Michael
I
Gallup.
think it's fine. I think that there's better players available.
If he stays healthy, it's a great pick. I think everyone's going to be concerned with CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Zeke Elliott that Michael Gallup will be probably a great season-long guy. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think there's better players available, but it wasn't a bad pick.
Oh wow, yeah, there is better players available. Holy
I'm not
cow!
picking for a while. Ooh, let me see. Let me do the old pre-draft. So with
I
an
think
eliminator, that's the trick. You go to the
Just
all
off the
about
top of
pre-drafting
my
an
head,
eliminator. I think I'd rather have Christian Kirk
I'd rather have John
off the top of
Smith.
my head.
I think I'd rather have the San Francisco 49ers
no.
defense.
I don't know. What do you, John Smith? I do not know anything about. He great. He made a couple acrobatic catches, but what? I mean,
You know what's funny? And don't edit this
the
out.
Tennessee D. The
but
Tennessee,
we had a timeout, and so one
Yeah,
of our timeouts took Debo Samuel because that was the pick based on ADP rank. Well, that dude
course,
could have a 0 for the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. In an eliminator, that's a costly timeout right there.
Well, in round
especially
7,
this early.
yeah.
In round 7, yeah, that's a starter.
Oh, yeah.
That's a starter on your team. You know, we're not in round 17 where you got one missing. You're missing one.
we're talking about your Gallup pick. It's not terrible.
So
not
tell us where, when, and
Hold
why. Why'd you do it, Brian?
Let's hear it.
What
Let's hear
were you thinking about?
I got Gallup because he could be the forgotten man there. There's another weapon on the field that's going to distract from, and he could have big games. I think in the 7th round, he's a big payoff. So he's going to have some weeks where he disappears, but he's going to have a lot of weeks where I think he could break, a long one off and be that relevant. So I think as my 7th round pick, I think he's solid. Also made my last 2 picks in Larry's eliminator.
Oh,
That's
really?
why I was gone so long.
Oh, you were a bookends.
Yes, I
and
was.
Larry Monkey eliminator.
Yes, I also made my last 2 picks there where I picked Cole Beasley and Brian Edwards.
Both
And
good
that was
picks. I'm
what round
a
did
Cole
that-
Beasley guy.
What
Just real
round
quick,
did
I had Cole Beasley in the fishbowl last year, and he was because remember the fishbowl, Scott Fishbowl last year had the arcade points or the video arcade points or whatever.
Yep.
What I forgot the terminology they used, but Cole Beasley, I mean, if you got a certain amount of yards, bam, you got an instant 5 points. Like, so if you got 50 yards or whatever, you got 5 points. So Cole Beasley was actually a great pickup for a Scott Fishbowl type of scoring system because he's a lock for 50 yards, 12 out of 16 games.
Yeah, I figured he's a guy that's not going to goose me very often, and at least give me some sort of points up on the board, especially in like the 15th round or whatever. Like, I'm happy there.
I know they've done some stuff to their offense with Diggs, but Beasley's been there. He's been there a couple years already, and I feel like he's.
But we keep talking about this offseason being jacked up. Diggs is kind of, I mean, he's not a rookie, he's a veteran, obviously, but like in that system, he's still new.
Chemistry wise,
So
good
he
call.
may just be more of a distraction for the early part of the season than he is, always in the game plan or always. They're going to want to get him the ball, but he doesn't have that connection. And Beasley is a dump off valve. That's what he's always been. He's very good at it.
Yeah, I think Beasley will be fine. He'll have some games here and there. As a later pick for sure, it's not a bad pick. So,
I mean, when we talk about the depth chart, oh yeah, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna bring him in. Bam, Scott Connor
Oh, my
wants to
God.
join us.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey guys, figured I saw your link. I'm like, I'll just jump in and see what you guys talking about.
Nice.
well, we're pretty
Very
much
happy.
bullshitting. So,
That's
So
the
real
best.
quick, Scott Connors jumped on, and we are just we're rambling. You know where we're at right now? We are in a deep Cole Beasley discussion.
Oh my gosh.
What's your take on
Sure you
Cole
wanna
Beasley? this
Everything
year?
in fantasy has been talked about. We were landed on Cole
Sure you
Beasley.
want-
I was
Step.
just I was just arguing with someone about Cole Beasley today. It was a best ball discussion, but they were talking about he's like the best round 16 to 18 pick in best ball. And I'm like, I mean, I can see it, I guess, but I would never pick him in a waivers league for sure, just because he's so replaceable. There's probably 20 other guys you could take that could give you similar production. So, I mean,
I feel like
where were you guys at? How did it even come up that he was even on the radar?
I personally am pro Cole Beasley because we were talking about Scott Fishbowl, and that's how
Brian just took him in an eliminator.
Yes, that's where
Brian just took him in Larry Monkey's eliminator. What round?
I had
what round, Brian?
Bookends. The 15th, end of the 15th.
So 15, 16. Yeah. 15, 16.
Yeah, I don't mind that. In best ball or in even Scott Fishbowl, where it's like, I know I'm gonna go basically zero receiver in Scott Fishbowl. I probably won't pick one till round 9 or round 10.
Right.
So I'll just be looking to.
Good to know.
I'm not picking any in these eliminators. Are you in any of these eliminators, Scott?
No, I didn't sign up for any just because once I do one, I'll do like 25, and
the scoring is pretty similar.
And I know there's no positional requirements, right? You're just chasing points at every position, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yep.
So we're in a bunch. Like a bunch of us are in a bunch. So that's what we've kind of been getting into. Brian just had a couple of picks. He had he had to make one pick, and then I guess he realized he was on the clock in one of the other ones. So he made his picks, and Beasley was one of them. I had Beasley in the fishbowl last year. And because of the scoring in the fishbowl, like he got like an extra 5 points for 50 yards or something. Cole Beasley, he's like money for the 50 yards. So he was always. There was a couple of weeks where I needed Beasley because I had some initial injuries, and Beasley just came. He just popped off a couple of times when I needed him. So I know who Beasley is, and I know that he's not. I know he's a Band-Aid, and he'll come through. He'll come through for you once in a while.
I mean, what did he have last year off the top of my head? He had 96 targets or something like that, or something close to it.
It was like 70 for 900, something like that. I can't remember.
There's nothing wrong with that, Beasley. I mean,
no.
Again, he's not your starting guy, but if you're in a deep league, if you're a bunch of starters, especially during the bye weeks, and he already has a rapport with Josh Allen, you don't know how this COVID nonsense is going to incorporate itself into mini camp and all that kind of stuff. So it just might be like I'm throwing the ball to the guy I'm comfortable with. I don't know these guys because we've practiced a few times without pads, and now we're playing in a stadium with no fans. Like, who even knows what could possibly go on? I feel like there's some value in having a rapport with some of the guys that you are familiar with.
There's also the fact that, the PPR receivers are actually going to get a little bit more of a boost because of those first down catches. Where if you get a guy who's catching 40 catches or a guy who's catching 70, there's going to be a lot more first downs for the guy who's catching 70 than there's for the one that's catching 40, which is an extra point or whatever. So there's a lot to be said for the guy who's just being bombarded with a bunch of short, intermediate passes. So, I'm not saying that I love the Beasley, that I love Beasley. But
yeah, I know.
In the 15th, 16th round, you're picking guys and hoping that you end up with a few weeks in there.
Beasley's not your league winner, but he's just like in those deep benches, bye weeks type of guy, and especially in a situation where we were just talking about. It's not terrible to have somebody that's going to get you at least a minimal amount of points every week.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you guys have talked about, the depth of receiver. I mean, you guys have talked about that a ton. I know I've talked about that a ton. But, I mean, if you look at one thing I'm going to do really, really hardcore over the next month is go through and see Beasley was, 28th in targets last year. And still in standard, he still scored 118 points. So, I mean, you can't expect him to repeat that. But I think there's going to be some value in Dynasty this year to go through and look at. I plan to go through and look at 4 or 5 different sites worth of projections, people that I trust that have actually gone through and projected every single team, attempts, targets, and all that stuff, and kind of look at maybe where there's gaps. Because there's a ton of gaps in Dynasty where it's Cole Beasley is wide receiver 77 in ADP, yet he's projected to be in the top 35 to 40 in targets. And then you have the opposite. You have guys that are, I hate to shit on AJ Brown, but it's like, dude, he's a top 12 receiver in Dynasty, but most target projections have him anywhere from like 24 to 30. So, I mean, you're losing value right there if all these experts are wrong on projections. I mean, you have a lot to have to get to, where he's being valued in terms of his production in 2020. But this is more for the fringe guys that you're not going to bank on for value more than 1 year. Right. Like you guys would say, like Marvin Jones is the benchmark. Every year he's projected to be like a top 30 receiver, yet he hasn't been in the top 50 in Dynasty in like 4 years.
Wow. So Scott, I mean, everyone loves your takes, and you have great content and everything. Well, some of us enjoy your takes, some maybe not, some others.
They're horrible. Come on.
What if do you have like a regret, like a big miss that you missed on, that you're just like, dang it, that guy, fuck? Like, is there a guy?
Everyone has a big miss. What was your big miss of 2019? How about that?
Rookie draft wise, it was definitely Arcega-Whiteside. I know I was hitting him basically anywhere from like 111 to 205, wherever. I punted Marquise Brown entirely. I mostly punted Deebo Samuel and Paris Campbell. Which the Deebo one, I don't regret the Deebo Samuel pick. I mean, you could have sold him for more. That would have been the only thing, but I don't necessarily punt on, upset and I missed out on the player. Right. But Marquise Brown is a guy I've bought a lot, and I wish I would have had more shares. But yeah, J Jaw for sure. I probably ended up with like 11 or 12 J Jaws after draft season, and that was way too much exposure on him. So definitely learned the lesson on that one. And otherwise, I mean, that's the one that actually cost me capital. You know what I mean? That cost me a first round pick most of the time. Mm-hmm. Other ones are just players I picked up way too many of, and I wasn't aggressive enough on like, I was too aggressive on selling Darren Waller last year. I had so many shares. I had probably 15 shares, and I sold 7 or 8 of them, just hedging my bets that if he's a bust, then I'm going to get something out of it. And, I sold a bunch for like early 3rd round picks, and that was a mistake. So.
Now you're in a ton of leagues. Did you what Greg did and I did as well? Did you discard Mark Andrews to make room for Darren Waller?
No, I love Mark Andrews. Ever since his first year, I mean, you just look at those splits; they just continue to get wider and wider and wider. And this is going to be a big year for Mark Andrews. I mean, there's no reason he shouldn't hit 650 snaps this year, maybe 700. And
are you in any redraft leagues?
Oh yeah, man. I'm in too many redraft leagues.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah, too much. But I have tons of Mark Andrews. I've done 8 football guys 350 drafts already, and I have 4 Mark Andrews. So nice. I'm all in on Mark Andrews there, just because you're getting him like 3rd round.
Hell yeah.
Okay, that was my question. Where do you see him coming towards you? 3rd round, huh?
Yeah, third round. Clearly the tight end 3, but that's those are FFPC's tight end premium, and there's been a couple teams where I've stacked him with. I hate taking quarterbacks, but taking like Andrews, Lamar Jackson at like. We had one team. We had the 101. We took McCaffrey, and then we took Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews at the 2-3, and basically just locked up a top 3 player at every position, and then just figured we'll just punt receiver and load up on depth at running back the rest of the way. But I mean, a top 3 guy at every position, that's hard to beat to start.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about the so let's pivot to these. So I was in a big rookie draft, the Dynasty Diagnostic Champions League. I got myself a bunch of rookie picks, and I'll throw my glasses on and I will tell you how I just the draft basically is over. The rookie draft, it came out of nowhere. Brian's in this league, Justin's in this league. Justin just took it's a 4-league copy league. Justin just did a startup. Me and Brian were a part of the we were in 2 different startups.
It's supposed to be part of the rookie draft.
Yeah, well, Brian, you missed the story, but Brian timed out on his only pick in the rookie draft.
He had one pick.
I had to do the walk of shame. It was not good.
Shame.
What pick was it that you timed out on?
Ever timed out on?
What pick?
It was the 409. I mean,
okay.
It was the 409.
I only had the 409.
So I had the kind of an opposite draft. I'm a big picks guy, so I always like to have a ton of picks every single year. I always find myself having at least a half a dozen picks in all my leagues. So I traded a bunch of stuff. I have a great team in this league. It's the first year, and Brian knows that I don't like guys with beards or mustaches on my team.
He likes him young.
No,
Anyway,
Everyone's here got a nice beard going, except for you, Larry.
I know. But listen, I was dressed a little differently earlier, but Greg was embarrassed, so I had to change my outfit. He was upset with me.
Jesus. Here we go.
So with the 1-3, I took Dobbins, which was a really tough decision because I was like, are you a CEH or Dobbins guy, or a CEH or Taylor?
Tua.
Okay,
Tua.
so I know. All right, this is what should I have done at the 1-3? It was
Not
the first
Dobbins.
pick, Burrow. It went Burrow, Taylor.
Yep.
I was at the 1-3, and I was like, it's Dobbins or CEH for me, or Tua, and I should have went Tua, and I didn't.
I mean, where did Edwards-Helaire go?
He went right after me.
So did you offer him he give you a third to trade down a pick?
I didn't offer. I didn't make any trade offers.
I told him to trade
Well,
back. He ain't listen to me.
Well, I think
I did try.
you could
to
say,
make
well,
it, but not.
you could trade back, but I mean, would he have given most people? I think would have given you something,
a 2.
a quarter to move up just to get their guy. And if you're going to take Dobbins anyway, I don't know. I think Dobbins is my RB3, but I'm not going to say it was good to pick him at the 103. That's all.
Well, look. Here's the thing with this league. There was no trading. The whole draft went off in a 0 trade. There was no trades at all.
Yeah, here's the thing.
I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it's so late in the year and everybody's already had a ton of rookie drafts.
Trust me, I was trying to wheel some deals and nothing, and it was just nothing. And then I just gave up and I just made my pick when it was time to make my pick. For the first,
keep in mind, Scott, in this particular league, you cannot trade future picks, so you're locked in on just what you have this year. So, when I did the startup a few weeks ago, but it feels like a few months ago now, because it literally took almost a month to do a startup. But it was, I think there were 4 or 5 trades the entire.
I made a big announcement. I made a big chat in the group chat. I'm like, I want to move down. It took me 4 hours to make my pick. I was shopping my pick to anyone that wanted to listen because I didn't care because I have it. You don't have to start. All you have to start is one running back. This is like a one running back fucking league.
Mm-hmm.
So. And I have Josh Jacobs. So I was like, all right, I got a running back. I traded Miles Sanders for DJ Moore. That was my 2 running backs. So I got rid of one of them because I was like, who gives a shit? I don't need one. I don't need more than this isn't a running. This is it's anything but a running back league. So now I was like, Jonathan Taylor would have been nice because it's not even it's a half PPR for running back. So it's not geared towards a running back. So I went Burrow Taylor and all I wanted to do was trade the pick and no one wanted anything. And Greg's like, take Tua. And I'm like, fuck. I need a running back because I need someone to pair. I need a Jacobs, replacement. I need just an extra guy. I had nobody like Jay Ajayi and fucking Jacobs. So, and on purpose, I was just like, I'll just pick up a running back in the draft. So I was like, fuck it. I have to take, it was Dobbins or CEH. And I was like, you know what? There has been all I thought it was Sonny Michel and Brad Penny. Rashad.
Brad Penny was a hell of a pitcher 20 years ago.
Yeah, I know Brad Penny. Yeah. So all I thought of was Rashad. All I thought of was Penny and Sonny Michel, and I was like, Dobbins has always been a top guy. Edwards-Helaire was announced. He was not. He was like the 10th or 11th guy overall in the early days. And all of a sudden, he's automatically number 1. I was like, you know what? Let me just fuck it. I'm a Dobbins guy. I love Dobbins anyway. And also this also played a part in it. The Super Bowl hangover. No one's really talking about with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, that's a real thing. And you want to talk about Super Bowl hangover combined with this COVID bullshit. No one knows what the fuck is happening right now. So I don't know. Maybe that plays in their favor. Maybe it doesn't. I
think the Super Bowl hangover is usually for the losing team, though. The
no,
losing.
I mean, how many teams repeat? Nobody repeats. No one repeats.
Well, and I'll tell you this: I hope the Chiefs get pounded a couple times this year because that's probably going to help them produce for fantasy more than necessarily the other way around.
But chasing points, yes.
Something you mentioned though that I think is important in a start one running back league, let's just say it's a 12-team super flex, right?
Yes.
A start one running back, half PPR league, I do think the gaps between these running backs is a lot slimmer. And I also think that I love the Miles Sanders for DJ Moore trade. Normally I'd say, give me the running back, because you got to start two and they're just a lot more scarce. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you can get 3 running backs inside like that top 16 or top 18, and they are, Miles Sanders, Jonathan Taylor, and maybe a Kamara or something like that, you have a lot of versatility to where you're probably covered for at least 2 or 3 more years without any threat of a holdout, any threat of having to replace those guys. But in a start one, I'm kind of with you. Like, I like to build real slim on running backs there with maybe like 2 studs.
Why bother?
But I don't prioritize. And the trades are not as heavy with them either because, it's different than having to start 2 or 3, or it's point per carry or full PPR plus, first down bonus or what. So I think if you're going to do it, it's an egregious move, like in a start 2 full PPR league, but in your format, I don't think it's as bad as it sounds on paper. Just when you give those specifics, the start 1 and the half PPR.
Yeah. So I went Dobbins. I you know what? I was happy to have him because I was just like, you know what? He's going to start fucking tearing it up. The Ravens are hungry. They're going to, he's going to emerge because he's the man. So I just went Dobbins.
The right pick was Tua, Larry. What did you do at 111?
Oh, so, okay. So this is how it went.
Don't say Keyshawn Vaughn.
No, yeah, man. Okay, buddy. That's an inside joke. So 1 of 3, I went Dobbins, then 1-4, CEH, then 1-5, Tua, Swift, Herbert, Akers, Lamb, Judy, and with the 111, I took Jalen Reagor.
Okay.
Now,
which I love.
I had the 111 and the 2-1.
I love Reagor.
Yeah, the 2-1, I know who I would have taken.
Reagor,
You probably
Jefferson,
didn't take the guy I would have taken.
Who would you have taken?
He took Mims.
112 went Jefferson, I assume.
112 was Jefferson, yes. Now,
Yes,
I wanted Jefferson. I have 0 shares of Jefferson, and I wanted Jefferson, but I felt like I should have went Jefferson there, but he would have went Reagor, and I feel like I like Reagor more than Jefferson. I like Reagor with the Eagles more than I like Jefferson with the Vikings.
I think that's kind of the consensus.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you were kind of stuck. That 201 is a tier break there, where it's basically you pick your guy.
And I took Mims because that's my guy. That's Greg.
Yeah, I still would have gone Ruggs there.
You would have gone Ruggs.
There.
I DM'd Mims recently. He didn't respond to me. Slid into Mims DMs.
Let's not talk about it. My gosh.
Let's not
Again,
talk about it.
We'll send you the clip.
Yeah.
I think you could argue Ruggs. You could argue Pittman. You could argue Higgins.
I think I'd go Pittman. Yeah.
Any of those 4. I lean Ruggs because he's the youngest
Pittman.
receiver. And
I got Pittman 2 picks later.
I think you can argue all 4. It's really just preference in that range. Let me ask you guys this, because speaking of rookie drafts, I have my last rookie draft coming up in 2.5 weeks. And I found that
the last ones to do it, Brian. Larry?
Yeah.
Here's what I noticed, though. My drafts that were like a week after the NFL draft, they were the most fun because no one really knew like what the consensus was going to be. And then my drafts that were like a month after the rookie draft, it seemed like they were all really tight. Everyone knew who they wanted. It was real hard to move within tiers. Like no one was aggressively trading in or trading out as much as we got further away. Do you guys notice that too? That it gets a little bit tighter after everyone's done like 5 or 6 drafts and there's been 2 or 3 weeks worth of content of like what the ADP should be and all that stuff.
Yep.
I think the rookie fever wears off and then like fatigue sets in almost where, especially when you have a lot of leagues like most of us do, like you've kind of like done this over and over. So like this one, like I think I made 1 or 2 trade offers and that was about it. Like I wasn't like those first rookie drafts, like I wanted into the top. I wanted to fight back up towards at least that back into the first. Now I'm kind of like, meh, I'll figure it out later. If I want to trade for somebody, I'll trade for somebody at a different point.
I mean, a lot of people just want to get it done at this point. Like it's weird because we're champing at the bit. We're like, come on, let's get the rookie drafts going. And by the time you've done 25 of them or whatever, it's, a lot of people are just make the pick and be done with it. And let's keep moving, which at some point, you damn it, Larry. I fucking hate you.
So I think to speak specifically about what Scott's talking about here is, I think it has a lot to do with the groupthink that comes out. I think a savvy owner like you, Scott, can take advantage of, if you have Taylor in a tier by himself, like I do, and then Swift, CEH, and all those guys are kind of the same. So if you don't have the 1-1, if you have the 1-3 and you're looking to move back a couple spots, I think it's easier to do that early, because a lot of the group think, a lot of the savvy guys haven't come out and kind of said, you know, these are kind of the tiers that we're seeing in the ADP, and everybody kind of says, hey, if all these guys are in a tier, why am I moving back a couple and giving up my 3rd round pick when everybody's saying all of these guys are the same? You kind of get what I'm saying? I think that's why it gets tougher to move around in these drafts as the offseason goes on, because the group think just becomes groupthink.
People have a lot more time to set their tiers, and then
that's true. That's true. And especially this year where it's like, you know, you knew after the draft that, and I was pumping this up, and so were a ton of people, that basically take the running backs first. You know, don't take receivers over running backs. And so I noticed as we got further and further into draft season, it was like, if you're sitting at the 109 or the 110, the odds that you're going to get like Swift or Akers is like 0. Whereas right after the draft, maybe that hadn't been fully absorbed yet. You know, someone might have still taken a receiver or whatnot. And my last draft, I have the 110, the 111, and the 112. And I'm quite sick of picking, you know, Judy, Rager, Jefferson. You know what I mean? I'm like, I know those are the 3 guys I'm going to get. Yes. That it's going to be the 5 running backs, Herbert, Lamb, and then the big 3. I mean, I'm going to get stuck with probably the selection of just all those receivers. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, I think I may just go different and see if I can shop those picks and just trade them all out for like future picks or something. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I'd love to get Lamb or Akers, but I think this is a sharp crew. This is that Ohio League that has Jeremy and like Ian Hartitz in it. Like they're all gonna know
that was it.
Yep.
Hooting in that one?
No. He was gonna take Ian Hartitz's team, but because Ian I don't know if you guys follow Ian, but he was the Roto World. He did the Roto World pod, and he just took over for Radcliffe for PFF.
Oh, you know what's funny? So when we had Scott last time, there was one when it was over, I was just like, dang it. You know what? If I could get this guy to myself again, this is what I would ask him. And I was like,
you want him to yourself, don't you, Larry? Oofda. You want us to go? You can kick us out anytime you want.
I'm out the Cincinnati Bengals. It's your favorite team. Like, let's talk about whose favorite team is the Cincinnati Bengals. That's like
anybody half of Ohio. And the other half are Browns fans, and then there's my weird ass that's a Packers fan.
It's about, I'd say Ohio is about 25% Bengals, 60% Browns, and like, dude, there's like 15-20% Steelers. Disgustingly, but it's true. It is true.
Can I
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, everyone can say what they want, but the first ever Jets game that I ever went to was Jets Bengals, and my uncle had
before I was born.
My uncle's had season tickets to the Jets. I mean, we're talking like Kenny Anderson to Chris Collinsworth, Cincinnati Bengals. So this is my only takeaway from from my uncle taking me. And I remember this like it was yesterday. My uncle takes me and my brother and my dad. We all go to the Jets game. There's a tailgate, and we're talking like it's got to be like 1980, 84. Who the hell knows? 85, 83, early 80s. We go to the game, tailgate. I'm like, yeah, we're in like the mezzanine. We're hanging out, and all of a sudden, my uncle's just like starts brushing his head, and it's like, whenever we look up, someone's fucking throwing up from the upper deck, and it's sausage and peppers is raining down on my fucking uncle's head. Cincinnati Bengals, New York Jets. Yes. Anyway, he's brushing it off like something like it was just like yeah, get something in your hair. You're like, yeah, but it was like it just kept raining sausage and peppers.
That is fucking horrible.
My first game was also a Bengals game at the Bengals Stadium. They played the Chargers.
Real quick. Oh, I have a great.
There's more to this.
Oh God.
Okay.
So we get back to my
Oh
grandmother.
fuck! I was trying to get him off.
We go to my grandmother's house. We go to my grandparents' house after the game, and they were like, "How was the football game? Yay, your first!" We went to a football game. Me, and my brother, and my dad, and we were like, "We how was the game?" And we were just like, "Someone threw up on Uncle Chuck's head." That's all we cared about to this day. That's all that mattered. Not the fucking game. That's the only memory was someone threw up on Uncle Chuck's head, and it was sausage and peppers. Anyway,
Sticking to football.
Brian,
Sticking to football.
you have the floor.
Somebody take the fucking floor.
I don't think I can. Okay, I'll take it away. Let's say being in Ohio, first game is also a Bengals game. We even got really good seats right on the 50, 13 rows up, bitching seats. The game was so fucking awful, we ended up yelling for the cheerleaders more than we did the football players. It was that bad.
Oh my goodness! What?
Yeah.
What year was this?
This would have been 90.
2019.
No, it would have been late 90s. Late 90s. It was Bengals Chargers. It was a bad game.
My first game, I went to a Lions Falcons game in Atlanta, and I went to the fan experience. Really, the only thing I remember about the game, we had nosebleed seats. My dad's company had some tickets or whatever, but the only thing I remember about the whole thing was, and I've got pictures. I did the whole hover hands thing around the cheerleaders while we were taking pictures. Like, when you're that awkward teenager and you don't want to so I hover handed.
Your hand around their waist.
Yeah, but
you weren't touching them.
Was 4 inches away, awkwardly standing there. Hell yeah, I was that kid,
Oh,
hover hand.
You're such a sweet
Have you guys
kid.
seen the guy beating off?
You're such a sweet kid.
Have you seen the guy beating off, like the security guy on the sideline beating?
Larry,
off?
Larry.
No, Larry. No,
Let's get back
bad
on the rails
Larry.
here.
Larry.
Let's get back on the rails here.
That's not the kind of sauce we want to talk
Scott
about.
Potter
that
is sitting
video?
here, and we are so
Scott.
far off the rails.
Scott, please bring the IQ of this.
I want to talk about
please.
SFBX. All right. So Scott, I,
I'm
and
getting a
Larry.
beer. Sorry.
Sorry, Scott.
Scott, Larry, and I have the same pick in SFB.
Oh,
Yes.
We all have the
You guys all have
1-4.
the 4. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's some
So-
sharp dudes in there. The
Oh my
guys that
gosh,
I look
there
up
is.
to in terms of their data, there's some sharp dudes in there. So
What
we got the
division
lead
are
thus
So
far.
you guys got the
division are you
premier
in,
pick,
Scott?
probably.
you mean the 1-4 guy?
I am in the Creepy Crawlers division. That's the toy that I chose. So I got the 104 in Creepy Crawlers.
And you did pick the 4?
I did. I have my wish list. There's 2 guys I really want to get, but I figured, hey, I'm going to be guaranteed essentially, Barkley, McCaffrey, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. So I'm just going to take the latest spot and fall whichever one comes to me. But I'm kind of hoping that I ended up getting one of the quarterbacks just because the quarterback scoring is so bad outside of the top couple. Like, I don't want to really be navigating the middle tier of quarterbacks. I was listening to that Superflex Super Show the other day, and they talked about some of the quarterback weeks, and they talking about Darnold and Mayfield putting up, each had 4 games more than -5 or whatever it was. I'm like, I don't even want to be in that tier chasing anybody. So I'll be happy with one of those quarterbacks, I think.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
I
mentioned I would love one of the quarterbacks to slip.
I referenced that show earlier, Scott. It's a good listen for anybody out there. So, again, episode 154.
Yep.
There is no
I got it
value.
written down here. I haven't listened to it yet, so I'm going to go
Who's
listen
the
to it
host of
afterwards.
Who hosts that one again? Who's the host?
It's Superflex Super Show. There's like 5 different guys that host.
Yeah,
but I mean, and honestly, a lot of their takes, I usually want to punch through the wall because I think some of them are so bad. But that show, when they talked about the scoring, they had Addison Hayes on there with DLF and FF Statistics, and he brought some sanity to it of just breaking down the numbers. And last year discussing, hey, it seems like the quarterbacks die off after the first 5 or 6, and then it's like you really don't want to be. My strategy is going to be like going after a real late quarterback like Minshew or Bridgewater or Carr, somebody that I know is going to have a high completion percentage and just really never want to play him that much. But we'll see.
I got really far last year with Wilson and L-Jax. I was all about Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson because they don't throw picks. So the Scott Fish Bowl scoring was big time, like -4 for a pick. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. I'll just take 2 guys that aren't going to throw picks. That was a no-brainer because L-Jax doesn't throw picks, and neither does Russell Wilson. But Russell Wilson blew it for me last year. Like I was,
Well,
I,
that's
I was
because
in like
Russell
the
Wilson
semis. I was at the very end of the fishbowl, and then Russell Wilson took a dump all over my team.
Well, that's because Russell Wilson has historically been one of those boomer bust guys. Like,
yeah.
he's not. There's a lot of quarterbacks, and I hear this a lot of times where people talk about boomer bust, and they say, such and such only had this many weeks, but it's all relative to where they're finishing. He's a top 3 or 4 guy every year, but he's got 6 weeks outside the top 15, that kind of thing. Whereas the same people are being compared to, like, he can't be compared to the 9th quarterback who has 6 weeks out of the top 15. That doesn't make sense. But comparing him to his peers, comparing him to Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, etc., he's historically been much more inconsistent. So he's got those weeks where, he's the ideal best ball quarterback because he's got those 40-point weeks in him. It's like, wow, where'd that come from? And he's devalued a little bit just because people are, they see that age 31, and he's much older than, and I say much older, he's got 7 or 8, 9 years left in his career, but he's much older than all these premium young quarterbacks.
Well, he's one of my biggest
passing
buys in
volume seems to
Dynasty.
scare a lot of people.
Just from I still think there's some fuck it upside in Russell Wilson where he's going to have 1 or 2 years in his career where they just let him go off. I don't think he's going to be held down by this offense for 7 more seasons. So I'm totally fine with.
I hope not.
Well, think about it this way. We talked about this on my show 2 weeks ago, but you got that next tier. Let's throw out Burrow because I think he does have more security than people are giving him credit for. He's probably going to start for 4 or 5 years uninterrupted.
Yeah.
Oh, easily.
But then you got. And I know Shane would disagree with Wentz, but I think there's a little risk with Wentz with his injuries, with his contract, with the fact they drafted Jalen Hurts. Like, you can't just pencil Wentz in for
the fact that he gets hurt every year.
Exactly. You look at those next guys, you got Wentz, Allen, Mayfield, Daniel Jones. I wouldn't be shocked if one of those 4 in 3 years isn't a starter anymore.
Daniel
Jones, it's terrifying. Josh Allen is a guy who is putting up tons of points on fantasy, but in real life,
he's a bad quarterback.
Yeah, right.
He's not
He's a bad quarterback.
Oh, fuck.
So,
I
think if you can take Mayfield, Allen, Daniel Jones, or Wentz and move to Russell Wilson fairly cheaply, that's a move I'd like to make in Dynasty if I can do it.
Are we missing someone here?
Woo! I love that.
He's one of my favorite quarterbacks to get. We've talked about, again, I have to ride and die with him sometimes because he will disappear on you for weeks. But some of that's their current playbook where he'll only throw 16 times in a game.
And that's the thing.
He's still be relevant. Most weeks he has those weeks, but some weeks he disappears.
His career has been very touchdown dependent, where he has thrown a lot of touchdowns and a very high touchdown percentage on his throws. But at the same time, that doesn't lend itself to week consistency, where you're going to have those weeks where he's throwing 25 passes and he's throwing for 200 yards and 1 touchdown. And that just is what it is because the offense didn't move the ball as well and he didn't get into scoring position quite as often. Or Chris Carson punched in.
What happens if their defense actually has a year where it's really bad? And then more importantly, what happens if they have a year where their running game just doesn't work?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
there's going to be
Pete Carroll will still run the ball.
That's the problem. Are they going to be stubborn enough? Then they'll just give Travis Homer 18 carries just because.
He's got one of the best quarterbacks in the league and keeps him in a damn chokehold with this run game. And I'm like, will you just let Russell Wilson do Russell Wilson things? Stop it.
Well, so you guys
this is not 1970s football. Let him go.
In 2016 and 2017, Russell Wilson attempted 546 and 553 passes. So
I'll take that all day.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you can get 550 passes from any quarterback, any given year, that's nice. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, one of those years, he only threw 21 touchdowns. That was rough. His touchdown percentages, it was career low touchdown percentage.
I have a trade. Let me know about this trade. What do you think?
Go, Larry. I'm ready.
DJ Chark for Rager, Mims, and P. Ryan. So
you're never going to get that.
The semi-established guy for the unknowns.
How many starters though?
Oh, it's happened. The trade has happened.
No, I want the players. I want that package all day, every day. You said Chark for Rager, Mims, and what?
P. Ryan.
Okay. So now everyone's on board with my side. So I'm all happy now. So I a couple months ago I traded.
I've spoken, so everybody is.
A couple months ago I traded Chark for the 111, the 2-1, and the 4-3. And with those picks, I got Rager, Mims, and P. Ryan for DJ Chark.
I mean, you're basically making a value pivot very, very little from Chark to Rager.
I mean, Chark was wonderful.
You're talking about.
I mean, Chark was wonderful, but he wasn't solid. You know, Chark isn't.
I think it's just principle, though. It's principle. If you can trade down from a wide receiver 18 to a wide receiver 25 and get another fringe first round, early second round receiver for free, and then P. Ryan for free, that's a smash. I mean,
that's the thing. I'm a big. I mean, obviously, I made this trade a while ago, but I'm a big. Let's get this guy. Let's get the picks. I'll figure it out later. And Chark, the draft. I'm a big draft capital guy. So, Chark has great draft capital, but he's a second rounder. And Rager was a first rounder, and I got I mean, P. Ryan's learning from Gore and Bell, and he's a third round pick. He's not like a 6th round pick. Who knows with these guys? You never know. You just gotta take chances on them when it comes to fantasy.
I got a topic for you guys.
Okay,
let's do it.
So I was looking at projections the other day, and this quarterback is actually projected at least on this website that I'm using. But I trust their data. I've used them for high stakes for a couple years now. 8th in the league in pass attempts. And it's a guy that's going outside the top 24 in terms of quarterback ADP in Dynasty. Any guesses who it is?
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Stafford.
Nope. He's got legit. I think he's got legit Dynasty value. He's not Fitzpatrick, but that's not a terrible guess.
Okay. So if you say he has legit Dynasty value, that means he's a young guy, in my opinion.
I mean, relatively young. He isn't a let's say he's not Fitzpatrick or Tyrod Taylor, to where he's just a bridge quarterback that's going to be gone.
I almost want to say Daniel Jones.
Nope.
Let's see. I wanted to say Derek Carr.
Nope.
We're talking about that.
That's a good one.
Greg, Brian, guesses?
Sam Darnold.
Nope. Remember, outside the top 24 in Dynasty ADP.
Oh.
Greg, you're Sam Darnold.
Quarterback outside top 24.
I'm offended by that Sam Darnold nonsense, Greg.
You missed the top 24 part.
Should be offended by your head coach, Larry.
The guy's going to be the best quarterback in the league soon.
All right, so who do you got, Scott?
And I don't really like this guy, but he's quarterback 25. Teddy Bridgewater projected
Teddy B.
561 attempts, and so
they're all going to go for about 5 yards.
Take the 561 on face value, right? 8th in the league, just behind Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, and Patrick Mahomes. So here's my question though: you can pencil in McCaffrey for 125 targets, something like that, maybe.
If
DJ Moore for another.
Greg was the quarterback, yes.
DJ Moore for another 135, 140, probably
130 targets.
So let's just say McCaffrey and DJ Moore hit 161 combined, right? 300 more targets between everyone else. So are we undervaluing Robbie Anderson, wide receiver 63, Curtis Samuel, wide receiver, 59, wherever he is in Dynasty?
I heart Robbie Anderson. I think he's a better receiver than Curtis Samuel.
I don't.
So.
No, Robbie
just
Anderson.
do the math, though.
I disagree.
Do the math. There's someone that's going to eat there at their current value. I don't know who it is. I think it could be any of those three.
Okay, so here's the thing. All right, so if you
It's Ian Thomas.
It could be.
It's Ian Thomas.
But here's the deal. Here's the deal. All right, so I know there's a volume with passes, but what about the volume with yardage? All right, sit down, Larry. All right, so if you got, we say 565. Is that what we said?
561 is the attempts. And you're right, the yardage is down, but it's still right under 4,000, 17th in the league. So not horrible.
Right around 4,000 yards. So that basically he's a mid-tier quarterback. If you're talking about giving McCaffrey 800 to 1,000 yards, you're talking about giving DJ Moore 1,200. Well, now you've got 2,000 yards left for the rest of the team. So it's not great, in my opinion. Like when you start talking about, okay, Samuel can get 600 and Anderson can get 600 and Ian Thomas can get 600. Well, there's 1,800 of that 2,000 eat up right there. So can any of them really blow up?
Blow up, I don't know if blow up. I'm looking more at like, okay, from a projection standpoint in 2020. And this is easier to project with receivers because there's so many of them.
Yep.
But I mean, where's their value gaps? This is kind of what I talked about at the beginning. And is there value gaps with Samuel and Robbie Anderson? Look the other way. We talked about Russell Wilson, right? So they have Russell Wilson's projected attempts at 490. So we're talking 71 less, but yet somehow he's going to support a wide receiver 15 DK Metcalf and a wide receiver 25 Tyler Lockett.
Can I ask you, how many touchdowns do you think Teddy Bridgewater throws versus how many for Russell Wilson? Because I think
Russ is probably at least half a dozen more touchdowns, I'd say.
Right, yeah, 6 to 10 at least more touchdowns. Well, that's a lot of touchdowns to wide receivers. So, I mean, they could put up the exact same volume. And I think that Russell Wilson's going to have a higher yards per attempt. So I think he's going to end up throwing 4,400 yards on fewer attempts than Teddy Bridgewater does. And he's going to throw a lot more touchdowns. I mean, there's a lot. And and they funnel the offense. There's two players there. And that's what they did last year anyway. Yeah. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf.
That's one of the arguments for Carolina too, is they're not one of these teams like, one of the teams that's really kind of I'm shying away from is Houston. Because if you look at a lot of these projections, they're projected 2 running backs to get significant targets. They're projecting 3 receivers to get significant targets, a 4th with Kenny Stills, and then 3 tight ends to get 30, 40 targets.
Right.
So it's like the peripheral guys in that offense, I don't want. I like these. Carolina doesn't have anybody else. They're basically going to play like 6 players, and that's it. So at least they're more predictable.
Right. For Carolina, it's the same situation as Seattle, where he's supporting. He's not supporting 2 receivers. He's supporting a running back and a receiver. He's got CMC and DJ Moore, the same way that Russell has DK and Lockett. Tyler. So I think those.
But are you worried that they're gonna? You worried they're going to steal some more? I mean, if Josh Gordon comes back, Philip Dorsett, David Moore, Greg Olsen, 2 other tight ends, I think there's some more, I guess, leeches in Seattle because they spread it around. Whereas, like, if Carolina doesn't bring in another running back, it's all McCaffrey. Nobody else. No other running back will ever steal a target, ever. They don't have a backup tight end that's worth anything. So we have to assume Ian Thomas is going to play, 90% of the snaps? 85%? I mean,
well, that's why I'm a big Curtis Samuel guy on that team too, because I think if something, God forbid, McCaffrey got injured, but the dude's basically been an Iron Man throughout his career so far. He got a cramp last year and he was pissed off about that. Like, he's still a running back in the NFL. He doesn't take a lot of the big shots, but he can still be injured at any time. Curtis Samuel's a lot closer to him as a player. Not saying he is Chris McCaffrey, but he can do more things in that role than the other wide receivers can. I think because DJ Moore is still going to do DJ Moore things. Like, they're not going to change what he does. They'll move Curtis Samuel, I think, more into that role, and you could see him having bigger games. Not saying McCaffrey size, but I think he's got more of an opportunity if anything happens.
Scott, you're talking about them spreading the ball around in Seattle, but they just don't. I mean, last year Tyler Lockett had 110 targets, DK Metcalf had 100, and then the next closest was 59 with Jacob Hollister. It's a funnel offense. It's 2 players.
How about the fact that Robbie Anderson can't catch? How about that part?
Well, so here's where I'll disagree, though. I almost want and maybe this is Carolina isn't the hill to die on necessarily with this argument, but I mean, people have kind of shit on Michael Gallup over the last couple months because they drafted CeeDee Lamb.
Talk about Michael Gallup, yeah, man, do it.
Well, no, but you look at what Carolina did last year, and maybe this speaks to maybe some value we can find in Washington too, because of what Ron Rivera did with Carolina. But they literally didn't play more than 3 receivers. They played Jarius Wright, who was an average at best fantasy player, like 80, 85, 90% of the snaps. They didn't put anyone else on the field. And that's kind of what I'm hoping with Dallas is it's just Lamb, Cooper, Gallup every snap. They don't ever play. They don't even bring other guys on the field ever. They don't work in.
Basically what they did last year.
When Cooper's fucking foot flares up, CeeDee Lamb's going to be the fucking man. He's going to be the man anyway. I feel like he's going to be the man regardless.
You see some of these other teams, and I mean, I'll mention the Bengals because they did it last year. He's a good player for real life, but for fantasy, when I see Alex Erickson on the field, I'm like, dude, get the fuck out. All you're doing is stealing. You're you're stealing snaps and potential targets that could go to somebody else.
There
And
are
I'm
teams-
worried about it this year if they bring
hell,
Erickson in.
There are teams
They
that
bring
spread the ball
Erickson in.
around a lot. There are teams that spread the ball around a lot, and there are teams that don't. I don't think the Panthers
Yes.
are going to. I don't think the Seahawks are going to. Atlanta is one of those teams that will throw to like 8 to 10 receivers in any given game. It's crazy. Julio will get his, Calvin will get his, and then there will be a ton of guys getting a shit. I mean, like, you'll never know. So outside of those two, I wouldn't trust anybody in Atlanta. I know Greg.
So are you worried a little bit about all the hype? Just people projecting Hayden Hurst for 95 targets? Like, would you be shocked if would you be shocked if like Jaden Graham gets 40 targets and Olamide Zaccheaus gets 30 and Russell Gage gets 60? I mean,
I would be shocked if Graham gets 40-something targets, yes, because I don't think he's very good. But if Russell Gage got 60 or 80 targets, absolutely not. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. I mean, they love their wide receiver 3 position. And I wouldn't bank on Hayden Hurst getting 95 or 100 targets this year because I don't know how the integration of the offense is going to work this year. So we'll see.
What's your thought on their backfield? I want to get your thoughts on their backfield. How's he gonna roll?
It's Gurley for like
horrifying pass Gurley.
It's seriously.
No, but
Gurley.
Let's say they add nobody right now and Gurley goes down in the preseason. Anybody else relevant?
They're screwed.
Is anybody else relevant?
They weren't relevant last year and they didn't have anybody.
No. Who's their 2, 3, and 4 right now if you had to pick their handcuffs?
Ito Smith is their 2, Brian Hill's their 3, and who cares?
So you think Ollison could get cut?
No, I think Ollison will be there, but I just don't care. Because if Ollison is on the field, I don't care about it.
What about Quadre Allison? What about him?
Hi, Scott. Welcome to our shit
Focused.
show.
Yes. It's devolved this week a little bit. We went the wrong direction.
Yeah, no. I think if it gets down to Ollison, nobody wants to play him except in HQ1 with a 16-team league. Like
Dude.
I don't even care about Ito though because Ito's had his opportunity and he's awful.
Yeah, but
Brian Hill is bad. Like there's nobody there I care about. Like it's just gonna be a shit show. If they go down, Hurst will be the one that get the receptions at that point because their running backs aren't worth a shit.
Yeah, but Ito Smith will command targets. He's not good between the tackles by any means, but he will get targets.
God,
Brian Hill is just
when you woke up this morning, did you ever think that you would hear Ito Smith will command targets?
Hey, I brought it up. I asked Justin about the Falcons backfield, and now he's letting us know.
I think there's going to be a big if Gurley goes down.
In the country that said Ito Smith will demand targets today.
if Gurley goes down, no one is going to want no one's going to want a piece of the Falcons offense. No one's going to want a piece of the Falcons running game. I mean, oh my gosh, stock up on your Matt Ryan because they're going to be.
That was one team I was shocked didn't draft like anybody at running back. I was shocked.
I was too. I thought a third round.
Even with the trade, like even them getting Gurley, like I wish they'd have done something.
Yep.
Well, it's funny because they have Ito Smith, who is a terrible between the tackles runner, and then Ollison, who's completely stone hands, and then Brian Hill, who's athletic. He can catch a little. He has a little power, but he's just not good enough to be a starter. So it's like they have all 3 limited guys that you don't really want.
Exactly. So
and
could they be a spot for like a Lamar Miller?
Oh no! Podcast, you're gonna get kicked right off.
I don't know.
I think it'd be better than what they got.
Money they can really spend at this
Lamar
point.
Miller.
Like, everyone has this. Everyone.
He wouldn't. Well, how much could Lamar Miller cost?
Lamar Miller, like a million or something like that.
Yeah, like
what is
he gonna cost? Nothing. Yeah, he'll be cheap as crap.
Miller, let me know and I'll jump back in.
And my HQ1 team would absolutely love that because I still own Lamar Miller in HQ1.
Lamar Miller is my kryptonite.
Brian's just hoping that he just wants to see that name next to his name instead of that FA, right? That team name instead of FA.
Yeah, I'm like, he's on a team, yes.
So they've got
in a 16 team, everybody matters.
Atlanta has a whopping $7 million right now. They can't spend because everybody has to keep a little reserve just in case something happens midseason, et cetera. So they can't drop a dime on anybody right now. They're basically locked in. They don't have $15 million. They can go drop $1 million on a running back. So no, there's nobody out there. They're gonna roll with what they got. It's gonna be Gurley, Ito, Brian Hill, and Ollison, and just pray to God that Gurley stays healthy enough and because he's going to end up getting 80% of the snaps. It's going to be one of those weird. He's on a 1-year deal, so this is one of those make it or break it years for Dan Quinn. I mean, if Quinn doesn't get it done this year, he's out. So
dead man walking. I might as well not even play through the season because it's going to end bad.
Yeah,
right.
I think Early's a good target redraft.
Larry, how many wigs do you have, man?
Man,
I feel like if Greg grew his hair out, this is what he would look like me right now.
Nope, I'd look like Scott.
Yeah, I gotta shave it off. It's getting to the point now where it's like you can start seeing the fact that I don't have any that can grow in certain spots.
Okay, so there was was there any HQ rumbling tonight? There's our 16 team Superflex tight end premium.
Have tight end premium, blah 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 blah. Start 11 with 90-man rosters, and seriously, I think 40-man rosters. It's crazy.
I sent a couple trade offers that were rejected.
I didn't get any trade offers, jackass.
I'm not sending anything to you. So
bastard.
He keeps. I ain't getting it either.
I know it's hard to talk about.
It's been a quiet couple weeks outside of me and Brian making a trade. It's been quiet in that league. So
who would you rather?
It's tough to trade though. Nothing's happening.
So everyone
there's
hates.
no
Can I just have a
real movement?
I'd love everyone's opinion on this one. This is completely random, but LaMichael Pirine is being selected in the late 3rd, early 4th round, and he's just sitting there by himself, and he has Le'Veon Bell and Frank Gore in front of him, like two seriously accomplished running backs. That's got to rub off on him, despite his talent that he may or may not have. What do you think of the fact that he's got two great influences when it comes to running the football and no one else in the running back room? What do you think about that? I feel like that carries weight, and I love him in whether or not he's going to be a contributor or not. What the fuck? What do you think? Anybody?
Also, I'll sum this up. As a Kentucky fan, I've seen LaMichael Pirine play a ton of times. He was shitty in college. So to think he's going to be he was not even really that good at Florida. Never when they played Florida was I like, we got to watch out for LaMichael Pirine. Right. He was not a special player in the SEC ever. Justin can probably back that up. Was he ever a guy where you're like, this guy's one of the best? Was he ever one of the top 6 running backs in the conference ever? No.
Why did he wouldn't just like him that much?
Had he been on Georgia's team, he would have been a 5th stringer. I mean, it was terrible. Like, no,
he's Brian Harrion.
Dang it!
Yeah, good. Mm-hmm, yep.
Who the hell is that? Then there you go, right there, right?
But we do know. Look, we do know that opportunity is everything. But the problem is projecting opportunity. So, I mean, now that they've got Gore on the team, it's just now he's the 3rd string or whatever. And do they bring in someone else next year if they get rid of Bell? So, are they bringing in another veteran? Are they drafting ETN or something like that? Who knows? Because Gase is going to be gone, so nobody knows what's going to happen.
Like an upper echelon running back. That doesn't make sense to me as a Jets fan. There's no way they would.
Well, they're going to clear some cap space when they get rid of Le'Veon Bell. So
I think Bell's going to be a great year. When it comes to Le'Veon Bell, if I'm a contender, I'm doing everything I can to get Le'Veon Bell because he's the 3rd running back on a contender. That's Le'Veon Bell to me. If you're in a dynasty league, Le'Veon Bell is the 3rd running back on a contender. He's going to be money for you a lot of weeks because Sam is just going to dump it off to him. All they're going to do is give him the ball. Why would you not want that guy?
The only thing about it is, what is their pace of play going to be this year? Because Gase has been traditionally super slow. Just wants to just grind.
Does he want to be a pussy? Or does he want to fuck games? That's what I'm talking about. Just give.
I don't think Gase cares. Gase is a shitty ass head coach.
Just give.
He's a motherfucker. I can't figure out who keeps getting a job.
What's to do? Just give him the ball. I met Le'Veon Bell at ShopRite. I live right across.
I met Le'Veon Bell at ShopRite. I'm drafting the motherfucker now.
I was like, you are the fucking man. I couldn't wait to tell him that I thought that he was the man.
Hey, you know what, guys? I know what player he needs to slide into this week. Le'Veon Bell.
Slide into Bell's DMs.
I feel like
Stop,
Mims.
stop DMing players, Larry. Stop it.
Bring Scott,
Seriously,
all
man.
Scott, bring you up to speed. I DM'd fucking Mims, Denzel Mims. Why not? Because I just
He
wanted.
did.
I just wanted to. I wanted to fucking tell him.
He asked him to be on the show.
I invited him on the show, and I wanted to tell him
Scott,
we
Scott,
appreciate
don't
it.
worry. If Denzel Mims comes on the show, we'll post the link so you can come on and join us, so that you can hang out with
You can
Denzel as
watch.
well.
You can watch.
Okay.
We got too many players. We got too much going on right now. If Mims comes on the show,
And
I'll
next week,
So he-
after Larry has asked Le'Veon Bell to come on, if Le'Veon Bell gets on, we'll get you on there as well.
hold
So
on a
don't
second.
worry.
All right, let's interview Scott for the potential of a Denzel Mims interview. What is your first question you ask Denzel Mims? If you were
Now that you're on the spot.
Well, no, I think the biggest thing is that I would ask him if he's taken the teams. He probably hasn't because the teams haven't got to Met yet, but I'm sure they've gone through every year. They go through like a how to handle the media class and like an etiquette class. And one of the first things they say is close your DM so Larry Monkey doesn't DM you. Larry, you're probably the poster boy for the Jets class on social media etiquette. They're putting it
What
up
have you
there.
heard from this guy?
They're putting it up there going,
Have you
this
heard
is
from Larry
why
Monkey?
you close your DM. So guys like this do not DM you.
If Denzel Mims comes on this podcast, I'm going to have to try and figure out how to mute Larry.
You'll
So
be
that
a
we can
second
have a real
blowjob?
conversation
Yes.
where we don't put him in
Justin, you will send out the link that week.
Larry cannot have
So
control.
you have
of
full
that.
control over
Larry
Larry.
cannot have
Scott,
control. Like
hold on.
I will seriously have to take over that week because I need to. I'll have to
Agreed.
like, make it a compromise. Like I don't want to put anybody in a compromising situation where Larry starts asking him how many chicks he banged this week off of his DMs or something. You know? Pretend like that wouldn't be one of your first questions, Larry. Hey, I got into your
Yeah.
DMs. How many chicks have two? You know.
I don't know. All I know is this.
Just
We
we'd have to shut him down. We'd have to shut the monkey down.
You shut the monkey down.
I
That
forgot
should be
what we
the
were
title of
talking
this show.
about.
The title of this show should be "Shut the Monkey Down."
Agreed.
That's good. That is good.
We'll see.
That is good.
I forgot. I had something really, really eccentric to say that contributed to this monologue. Nothing.
Woo us with the poetry,
Shut the
Larry.
monkey down.
So,
I want Greg to have the floor right now.
Scott, all right. Can I talk to Scott for a second?
As long as
May.
you
For
are
gosh,
not on.
for gosh sake, stop interrupting me. So, Scott, we're going to be on the Podathon at like 1:30 in the morning
Yes.
Central. Are you participating in that? Are you going to be on? What time are you going to be on? Have you been approached?
So I was on the Podathon last year.
I remember.
And it was something I really, really wanted to do. And I think I had the 4:30 or 5 a.m. slot. And,
I watched.
that was to get the exposure. I had to come on at 5 a.m. But I remember getting up early, jumping on there. And no, I did not reach out this year just because I did it last year. So I didn't reach out this year. And no, so I'm not going to be on. So I'm happy for you guys that you jumped on. Do you guys have your time slot yet?
1:30 a.m.
2:30.
Yeah,
1:30.
1:30.
2:30.
1:30 Central.
1:30
Oh,
Central.
that's
yeah.
even shittier then. So 2:30.
Eastern.
2:30 Eastern.
Dude, Larry's going to be gone by then.
Larry's gone by the end of every episode.
Will you? So you're
Larry, no
I assume
drinking
you're
on the
not planning on
Podathon.
tuning in.
Okay.
I mean, I'll tune in, but that should be interesting. That gives Larry a lot of time.
Do you
I got
want
a
a
question
DJ
for
Charles
Larry.
jersey?
You can tune in and watch this fucking train wreck.
Thank
All right,
God
so-
it's only a half an hour, Scott. Thank God.
I
Yeah.
All
love
right, so I got a question for Larry. Larry, shut up for a second. Okay, so everyone knows Larry's a stay-at-home dad. All right, here's the deal. Larry, did your wife take off on Monday so you can sleep off your hangover? That's the key.
She has no idea.
So you're gonna wake up like 3.5, 4 hours later and deal with your kids? Oh, your daughter. You just have
You
one. kid.
haven't even told your wife you're doing this?
I feel like she can. I feel like I will tell her before we get to that.
Wait,
Oh
Wait,
my
you've not
God!
told your daughter-
This is gonna.
you've
not
We're
told
gonna
your
end
wife?
up not being on this.
Yeah, she's gonna pull
Yeah,
the plug right
don't
in.
worry, guys. I got this.
You think
I'm
you
gonna-
think my wife is gonna wreck our entire appearance? No,
I
chance.
think you should have told her by now,
You
dipshit.
absolutely should tell her. I think
she knows.
tomorrow, not tonight because it's late. But
I feel like
tomorrow,
I
you
could.
have a conversation with her,
Scott, I
Larry.
feel like Scott could tell her. I don't want to tell her.
Scott, slide into those DMs, man. Do it. Jesus.
I can't believe I'm getting shit for sliding into
God damn.
his fucking DMs. How is that not sexy? It was a regular fucking post. Hey man, come on, you want to come on the podcast? We think you're the shit.
I feel bad for Scott. He's like, I'm gonna pop in and see these guys, and it's just been a train wreck all night.
Hey, listen,
No, it's all good. It's all
I
good.
honestly
was just
thought
sitting here, so-
that Denzel Mims might be interested in joining us for talking shit, some shit, man.
Especially when he listens to this. I mean, this is some grade A
Well,
shit.
I was a little concerned that he might not be interested in our last episode because we didn't even talk about him in the last episode. But we're consistent with our Denzel Mims talk, but the last episode there was nothing.
We talked about tight ends for an hour and 20 minutes,
I know,
which was impressive.
a ton of tight ends last week. There was a ton of tight ends.
Tight ends.
Because guess what? Guess why? Because there is a ton of tight ends. There is. There's a ton of tight ends, and they're all a bunch of bullshit. All of them, except for like 2 or 3.
Except for
How about you, Scott?
Mark Andrews.
When you think about tight ends, are you on that? I mean, how do you think about tight ends?
Oh, so where do you even want me to go with that question?
Are you one of those where if you miss out on like the top 3, you just punt and then get a bunch late and just
Great
hope
question.
one hit?
No, man, I love myself some tight ends. Just love them. But no, I think tight ends are probably one of the more interesting positions because here's what I'll say. I'll keep it at this. There are a ton of people out there that have crunched all the numbers on other players, receivers especially, but running backs. I can't tell you there's one person out in the dynasty space, the fantasy space, that is an expert on tight ends.
Yeah,
they can tell you between outside of the top couple, they can tell you who's the one that's going to break out. They can tell you which draft prospects are going to hit and which ones aren't. It's just everyone's just kind of like it's all random, so I'll just throw darts. I mean, that's basically what everybody says. And I think you say the same thing about all the tight end twos in dynasty. They're all like between 23 and 27 years old, and it's like, okay, who the hell is going to be the next breakout, and who's going to be the ones in the top 12 that fall out? Because there's a couple that are going to fall out, or they're going to be not hit this year. You know, Hawkinson or Fant. What if they don't have a good year this year? Do they fall out? Do they become the next OJ Howard and Njoku, where they fall down outside of the top 12? I mean, I don't know.
I think they have to.
I'd love to interject. What's your take on Hawkinson and Fant? Who's the winner?
Man.
What owner is the tight end winner when they have Hawkinson and Fant? Hawkinson was he had a lot of targets when he was healthy, and Fant came up with some big plays. What do you think? Who's the winner? Because I feel like Hawkinson might be the guy because they drafted him very early, and they've been peppering with targets. He's had some unlucky bullshit happen to him. Yes. No.
If I had to bet which one falls out this year, I actually would bet against. I would bet against Hawkinson. I think he'll fall out more so than Fant. Even if Fant doesn't have the volume that he could have had in another situation, I would bank on him staying in. Just the way he scores his points, I think, is going to insulate his value a little bit more. But I could be wrong. I like Hawkinson buying him at his price too. But I would bet on Fant being the one that doesn't fall out versus Hawkinson.
What about Hawkinson? Well, real quick though, the Hawkinson injury thing. He's not going to be healthy for the season, or who knows what that is.
Tight ends get hurt. I mean, it is.
I think people look at tight ends the wrong way too. I don't even literally with Fant and Hawkinson. It's great to have them, but I'm honestly fine if they don't give me anything for 2 or 3 more years.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine if they go down the Dallas Goedert path and they're 26, 27 before they actually get their shot. And Goddard may not get his for 2 more years either. So, I mean, I know people are off Goddard because it's like, well, Ertz isn't going to be gone for 2 more years. And it's like, I don't even care about their production really until they're 26, 27. If I can get something at 23, 24, 25, then that's gravy.
So Njoku's a buy for you then?
Oh, yeah. Love Njoku at his price.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about this. So getting back to all the dart throws, and I did this a lot in our rookie drafts this year, is once I got into the late 3rd, early 4th, I started hitting tight ends. If it was, I mean, I only play in tight end premiums for the most part, so I don't care. I have one league that's not tight end premium. I could care. I could give a shit about tight end there, but 0.5 or 1.75. Once I got into that 4th round, especially, it was like all tight ends for me because just like you said, none of us, everyone's saying this tight end class is shitty. It's terrible, yada, yada, yada. But none of us know how to project tight ends. Like there's literally no one out there that can go, we've got a stud tight end class or we've got a crappy tight end class. Like, I mean, we just have no clue. I mean, it was supposed to be OJ Howard and Njoku and all that coming in, and they haven't, lived up to the hype. Of course, it's just 1 year, but it was Fant, Hawkinson, and Irv Smith, and we don't know if any of those guys are going to live up to it. But then we've got guys like, of course, Kittle coming in and dominating. Andrews was chosen even later than his teammate who just got traded, Hurst. I mean, there's no telling. There's no projection on tight ends that's accurate. So I
want to get your thought on this one because you may disagree with me here because you may be off this player for the same reason we fought about KJ Hamler so many times in the HQ chat.
There was a KJ Hamler argument.
Sean does this.
No, this isn't KJ Hamler. This isn't KJ Hamler, but so I had a couple articles for DLF. We do basically there's a pool where you go in and just pick players and you do profiles on them. And I picked a couple tight ends because no one wanted to talk about the tight ends in this class. So I just picked a couple tight ends. But I went through and looked at some of the cohort splits of based on his combine data and based on his draft capital. I'm kind of taking the same stance on Albert O as I took on Hamler.
You like him?
Well, here's the thing: everyone's going to crap on him because of his landing spot. But I mean, if you look at
the way tight end,
well, he's in Denver behind Fant. So if you're going to argue against Hamler, you're going to argue against Albert O in terms of you're not going to get any production from him in the first couple of years, right?
I dig it.
The only thing, I got a little bit different opinion about that because I don't think that he's quite as blocked as Hamler is. Now I don't have him at the top of my rankings. I've got Kmet and Troutman ahead of him.
Sure. He's a 4th round pick though. That's the thing. But I didn't take him enough in 4th rounders where I probably should have. And I mean, if you just take, I know people will say it's overrated. But if you just take his 40 time, for instance, and you look at, but you look, there's only been 3 players that have run a faster 40 time in the last 20 years at tight end. And it's Evan Ingram, Darren Waller, Vernon Davis.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then you look at all the players that were just below. He was under 4.5. Just the guys that are under 4.6. It's another 17, but they're all guys that were good.
Right.
So it's really, can you just match his opportunity up with what he is? So if you can get him on a bunch of teams, I don't think you necessarily need to pay up to draft him because I do agree with the take with you say on Hamler, he's going to be cheaper in a year or two. I think if it's all Fant next year and Albert O gets buried and only gets, 10, 15 targets or something, you can get him next year because people will forget about him. And there's 3 stud tight ends coming in next year. So I think you can just get him, but he's a guy I want on my teams because his comparisons are.
I think he's one of those guys that's going to be a throw-in next year. He's going to be a throw-in on trade. And if you like him, if you like his profile, that's when you go buy him. And that's been my argument about Hamler. If you like his profile, buy him next year because he's going to be cheaper next year. So, that's the thing about when we were talking about that. And it's the same situation with Albert O. I don't think he's going to get much opportunity this year. So you're going to have to.
Well, I made the mistake. I took Harrison Bryant over Albert O quite a few times. Yeah. And I also did a deep dive on Harrison Bryant. Harrison Bryant's a guy I don't think is going to make it. You look at his profile compared to Albert O, and they're literally in 2 different stratospheres.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really small. He has a.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. I was going to say I have him ranked ahead only because I think that the Browns may end up moving Njoku. So I think that he's a player, and they like to play. They like to play 12 personnel.
They're going to hold on to him. I feel like he's a specimen. He's not even. He's 23. Why would they?
Here's my worry with Harrison Bryant though. Even if they moved Njoku tomorrow, if you look at his arm size, he's the bottom 3% in hand size and arm size historically. He has one of the lowest BMIs to come in the draft in the last 5 years. And I don't think he's ready to play right away. They can move Njoku tomorrow, and Harrison Bryant's 2 years away from getting on the field. So, I mean, Njoku really doesn't block him. But then you just look at his profile. If you're going to wait 2 years on both guys, who would you rather have? And to me, my conclusion was it's Alberto over Harrison Bryant all day because I'm just punting the 2 years. And I picked Harrison Bryant over Alberto in 3 drafts, and I'm kind of kicking myself for doing that. So I don't know.
See, I thought Harrison Bryant was a fine prospect. I know his BMI is low, but if he ends up playing, if Hooper ends up playing in line and Bryant ends up outside in a move tight end kind of situation, because the Browns do like to play 12 personnel, whereas the Broncos are only going to play 11. They're going to have 3 wide receivers out there oftentimes. I mean, that's just what they're going to do. So Alberto is not going to see the field as often and this all depends on if Njoku gets moved or if they just decide they don't like Njoku and they want to bury him anyway because they're done with him whenever. Obviously Hooper is the starter there with what they've invested in him, but I don't know. And again,
something to watch with Harrison Bryant is they have 2 other guys on their team. They have 2 other basically just pedestrian tight ends.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I'm looking for, even if they keep Njoku, who's their 3rd tight end?
Right.
If they bury Harrison Bryant and he doesn't see the field at all, even if Njoku gets hurt or Hooper gets hurt or they move Njoku, if they're running out other guys over him, it almost tells me the Browns just see him as a pure redshirt player year 1. Like they don't even want him on the field. But that's discouraging for me because you're telling me he's a good weapon as a receiver. That's all he is. That's all he is. He only had 13 on the bench press, weakest tight end in the draft, shortest arms in the draft, 2nd smallest hands in the draft. So, this guy physically is not ready to play. But if he gets on the field right away as the 3rd tight end, then that tells me the Browns see him as this is a guy we can find a role for, regardless of whether he's physically ready to play.
And they don't trust Njoku, right? Seems. It's not their guy.
This kind of just leads into what we talked about with tight ends, right? Who the hell knows what they're talking about? Like
right.
if there was the signal where you could say this is one I want as a rookie, then we'd all be all over the right sophomores and juniors to buy. You know what I mean?
Hey, yeah. I want to shift gears right now, real quick, and I'm curious because we all love Scott and what he brings to the table, and we're all a part of each other's life on that, whether it's a part of the Patreon chat that's Dynasty Trades HQ or just in general and Twitter, and we're just all ingrained with each other. It's Father's Day. Today's Father's Day. Randomly, I got my Colin Kaepernick jersey in the mail, and I'm really excited about it. But I'd like to know, Scott, who do you listen to when it comes to like who are your favorite female like dynasty folks or fantasy football folks, or minority folks? Like who do you pay attention to? Who floats your boat when it comes to that sort of thing? Jesus. I know this is random, totally off topic. I'm just going for it.
So all white males are excluded then, yes?
I don't know, man. I guess.
Well, you said females or minorities.
I think that was the question.
Oh my God.
The female stuff. I'm really about the chicks, and who do you listen to when it comes to chicks? When it comes to fantasy.
Okay, so I got 2 answers for you. 2 answers.
Awkward pauses for sure.
2 answers. One, I'll go first with I think we all love Ray Garvin. Ray is one of the best. Ray's awesome. I'm part of his Patreon, and it's just he's one of the guys that he definitely speaks what he thinks, but he also is super informative. He's a former player, so he comes at things a little bit differently. But he also is someone that's really humble, and he'll call me and ask me questions or text me and ask me questions about Dynasty because he's still learning Dynasty too. So it's like he's humble enough to say, even though he's got a huge following and a huge platform, it's like he's still asking advice. You know what I mean?
I love, and I encourage anyone that's listening to this, download Stompy's pod. He has a no justice.
Yes, that was really good.
Pod. He had Ray on as a guest, and it is. It's. God, if you're on the right side of history, take a listen. I
teared up in that part in that podcast when he talked.
Just have a listen. Stompy, what he's done, it's unbelievable. I appreciate everything about. God, just
when Ray talked about that story about
take a lot to be a good guy. That's all. That's all. I mean, end of story. It doesn't take a lot to be good. Just be a good person. That's all. Right, Scott? Anyway.
Yeah, well, when Ray was telling that story about how when he's just putting his kids to bed or giving them a bath and he looks at his little kids, I think he has a kid that's 3 and then 8 months, and he looks at them and he just looks at them and says, these kids are innocent. They were born in a society where they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything to be treated this way. And you just look at the way he put it. You just got to listen to it. Larry, you know what I'm talking about when he mentioned his kids, about how they were innocent. They're little kids that could be judged based on their race. And
what infuriates me as a stay-at-home dad, which is a great joke to play, hey, you're a stay-at-home dad. Let's, hey, Larry Monkey, Kent, whatever. Hey, what infuriates me is the fact that I see my 1-year-old, my 2-year-old, my 3-year-old, as she has grown up, and she has played with kids that it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Everything is kid. Yeah. It boils down to, what do they say? The shit comes down from the top, or whatever the hell the saying is. I don't even know, because
I don't know what the saying is either.
It's just some despicable bullshit comment about the bullshit comes from the top. So, God, and then I'm the wrong guy to talk to you about this right now, because I am the right guy. I'm proud that I have a rainbow flag in my front yard. I have a Black Lives Matter flag on my front yard. I am so happy that my wife was just like, she was questioning me about it, and I was like, no, this is a no-brainer. I don't care. I want to know that everyone's allowed in my house. Everyone is allowed in my house. It doesn't matter. And apparently I need to let everyone know this, because not everybody seems to think that that's okay, that you can go in someone else's house. But yeah, everybody is allowed in my house. And that's I have a couple flags out in my front yard that let everybody know that. So I feel like I'd rather be on the right side of history, and that's where I'm at. So I don't know. I don't even know how we got on this subject, but Chris Collinsworth, Kenny Anderson to Chris Collinsworth, bam, sausage and peppers on my uncle's head. That happened too.
I'll throw this one out there for you. Paige DeMacos.
Yes.
Paige DeMacos does the Draft Network fantasy show, and she's on there with Jake Arians, who is Bruce's son, and he's real interesting to listen to. He doesn't talk about a lot of stuff that's inside with his dad's team and stuff, but he drops little hints sometimes. He definitely has some inside information that he'll share on that show. So she does a great job hosting it, and he's one of the co-hosts. So the Draft Network Fantasy. There's I think one of the best females in the industry. Boom.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys, but yeah, this is really affecting me, because I'm just like, my kid she's turning 5. Do I want her to go through all of this nonsense when she's my age? I don't think so. Let's end it now. Let's just fucking, okay, everybody's a fucking douche. Let's clean, let's take care of business and just move on. That's where I'm at right now. I don't want my daughter, who's about to turn 5, to have to, be dealing with this bullshit in 40 years. I mean, come on, figure it out already. Let's fucking take care of this and move on.
I'm a champion for minority rights, etc. And I'm in Mississippi, so I get to be very vocal about it. Yeah. And I can tell you right now, after a discussion I had on Friday night, we're not close. We're not close.
I know.
There's too much economic diversity. There's too much of a difference in it all. And I'll argue it for hours and hours with anybody. Is that the economic funding for schools, especially elementary, middle school, high school, etc. There's too much of a disparity between urban and suburban funding.
There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done.
But what happens is, hold on, because we can go down this road. It's fine. I like it. It's a time where everyone has an opinion, and people need to, have their eyes opened a little bit. But when you think about, and we're all 5 white males, all right, and all of our parents are at least high school educated. Probably our grandparents are at least high school educated. If you look at an inner city kid down here in Mississippi whose grandparents, probably didn't make it past 6th or 7th grade. Honestly, I mean that's no joke. How especially and even getting out of the suburbs into the rural areas, there's no way that some 60, 70-year-old person who is of color has made it past that. So you're talking about kids that are learning how to speak and all that at home with their relatives, and there's a gap there in education that we have to close. And that's not going to happen in one generation. It's not going to happen in 2 generations. So as much as we want it all to close and for everyone to be equal, we've got to close the gap in education, and that begins in our school system. And right now we don't have that, and we don't have the ability to do that in 5 years, 10 years, probably even 20 years. Like we're gonna. And
I totally agree with you, Joe. I think it's one thing.
So,
like I said, I think it's one thing that's forgotten. A lot of these disparities that have happened aren't that long ago. They feel longer to a lot of younger people, but they're not that long ago. And that's what you're trying to overcome is generations of inequality.
Yeah, 60
not
years ago,
necessarily today where everybody has the equalness or whatever, but where hey, their grandparents didn't have that accessibility to being equal. It just didn't. Exactly. And that's a generational gap. It's going to take a long time to close. It's not going to happen overnight.
There's a trickle down effect that right now is affecting the youth of our time right now, that the 50-year-old white person doesn't see. They don't see that because they never experienced it. They never walked into a home where the highest educated person dropped out of school at age 14. So all they see is this kid has the same opportunity, and I hear it and see it all the time. All these kids have the same opportunity. Well, no, they don't, because if you look at the school system, and Jackson, Mississippi is a small city. It's a couple 100,000 people. But if you look at the inner city schools here versus the suburban schools that are literally 15 minutes away,
it's all strategic. You know what they're doing. It's unfortunate. It's terrible.
But those kids in the suburban schools have MacBooks or iPads or whatever. They're coming home with those. They're issued those by the school. And the kids in the inner city, they might have one computer in a classroom of 30. I mean, it's absurd. So until we close that gap, there's right now we're not that close. And unfortunately, that's true all over the place. You go to any big city, there's a huge disparity between what's happening in the city and what's happening outside the city. I mean, Chicago, my wife has relatives in Chicago, so I go up there and visit. And my wife's cousin has a nice job and lives in a nice part of the suburbs or whatever, and they go to a nice school. They go to public school there, but it's still, it's much different than inner city Chicago schools. It's just, there's not even a comparison. And it's unfortunate because if you talk about, and even like, it's not even really about it starts when you walk in the halls. And when you walk in the halls and you got this depressing beat down school versus this brand new school that was built 10 years ago, that's all nice and pretty, great facilities, it's just a different morale. Like it's a morale booster for the ones that get those kind of benefits. And unfortunately, that's all the white kids out in the suburb right now. So,
well, it's interesting to listen to. Larry mentioned Stompy's podcast, but I think there's something that I've kind of come around to.
It's Ray. The one with Ray was amazing. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, in the one he had before with Chris Allen, and then he had the one with Ray. And I can't remember the book, but there's a book out there that they did a study on African-American kids that grew up in like the top 5% of wealth households in the United States. And they just studied I think one of Colin Powell's kids was part of the study. And it was just looking at like affluent minorities that grew up outside a lot of what Justin was talking about. But they still faced, and it's the same thing when you see like Malcolm Jenkins talking. He has plenty of money. He can afford to send his kids to great schools. And so they're not going to grow up with the same experience. But the fact that they're still treated differently, even though they've risen above a lot of the economic concerns that you might always lump in, minorities with. They've risen above that, but they're still treated differently inherently because of the way that they look. And I think we can learn something from that because I think people are in denial. Justin, you can speak to it. And from where I grew up, I can speak to kind of the same thing. I hear a lot of sob stories from people that are white, and they say, I grew up in the worst parts. I lived in Kentucky for a long time. There's parts in Kentucky that are poorer than anywhere in the country, anywhere. And I mean, Justin can probably say the same thing in Mississippi. There's poverty like you've never seen.
Same thing in New York City. Yep.
You can say the same thing everywhere, but you know what? Those kids still grew up as white kids.
They figured
they did not deal with the same mistreatment. They never had to deal with that mistreatment because of the color of their skin. They might not have had a pot to piss in. They might have went to the worst schools. Their parents might not have been educated. They had all that same stuff. But then you compare them to like, you know, LeBron James's kids or something like that. They never grew up with any of that stuff. But the difference is how they're treated based on their skin color. That's it.
Yep.
And it still exists regardless of where you are on the economic spectrum. So that's something interesting to me that doesn't get enough talk.
Yeah. So I'm a white male, and I'm, you know, what am I? Whatever, 40 something. And
Stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, I'm a stay-at-home dad, but I used to be the diversity guy. That was my job. I was a diversity guy. I started as an HR guy, and I worked my way up to I got a
diversity
job.
And inclusivity.
Diversity and inclusion. I was a diversity and inclusion and mentoring specialist. So I was a part of a big-time mentoring program. As a matter of fact, when I moved on to another company, and I introduced I connected with the Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I introduced a Big Brothers Big Sisters program to this company that I started at. But yeah, so I don't know. I forgot what I was talking about. So that's what happens when I'm super bummed.
Sounds right.
Larry,
sounds right.
It's 2:10. Let's shut it down, man.
Is it 10 a.m. or no?
2 hours and 10 minutes. Let's shut it down.
We can wrap this up and
Let's
say,
shut it
you know
down.
what?
I'll clip
You know
it
what?
all.
Everyone needs to make a difference in their community.
All right, listen, man. Okay, so
And if nothing else, I will say this: as growing up here in Ohio, I went to county school. We did not have a lot of diversity in our schools. We'll put it that way. At least out where I was at, we had 2.5 black people in our school, and that is an accurate number. So when I started working in Springfield, my hometown, as a high schooler, there was a lot of a learning curve I had to pick up just because I wasn't exposed to the variety of type people. And I think one of the best things you can do if you've lived in that situation, because listen, there's just some areas where you're not exposed to a lot of diversity. It's true. Just do better. Learn what you can and listen. The biggest thing you can do is listen. And you know what? Maybe
I started back in the day. I was fucking what was I? I worked in a mailroom, and I worked in a mailroom, and I washed dishes.
I tried.
Larry, we got it. We got to shut it down, man. You can't get through it.
Larry's sitting here brushing his hair back.
The wigs are affecting Larry.
Can't keep a thought in his head.
I'm telling you, baby, this is some real.
Greg, Greg, you wanted to say something.
I just grew up in the same type of environment. I didn't speak to a black person until I was in 9th grade.
That's amazing.
I didn't even talk to a black person until I was in 9th grade. I live in northern Minnesota, man. It's
one of my
right.
My wife's friends.
Lucky that one of my best friends through high school was half black. Great dude, one of the best dudes I've ever met, and learned a lot, with him. And especially going to high school, I started working at Wendy's, and I will not lie, that was the biggest culture shock of my entire life. Was starting to work in Wendy's in town. Just the different kind of people you see there, different sexual orientations of different colors and backgrounds. And, I was raised luckily in a very good household where I was not taught any kind of prejudice. I just very open to people, but it was culture shock. You don't realize what other people are going through because you don't see it. But yeah, just do the best you can. Try to listen, try to understand. Just because you don't see that problem doesn't mean that problem doesn't exist.
Right. And see, you guys weren't around black people at all, but me, I was the only black person on my basketball team. I was the only black person on my track team.
You're
the only white
guy?
Black guy?
I was the only white person on my basketball team, and I was the only white person on my track team. It was just, my schools were at least half black, the ones that I went to.
Hey, run DFF. What's your best 2 mile?
2 mile.
I don't know, because we ran a 3,000. We ran a 3,000 in college, so I don't know. Probably somewhere in the 9:20, 9:30 range, something like that. So
I have no idea what that means. What
I
about
probably would have run like a
mile
9.
time?
Pretty fast.
High school mile? Were you a track star in high school or no?
No, I wasn't a track star in high school. I didn't get good until I was in college. So
Oh, rubbish.
I was a late bloomer. I was pretty good in college, but I wasn't anything in high school.
I had no idea you were a black guy. I mean,
Yeah, well, you know, I haven't
I've
been
been doing a
outside-
podcast with you for like 3 months now. And holy moly.
You know, it's crazy, like, to think of the different. And I actually lived out west, out in the Northwest, for a while, and it's true. You don't encounter black people the same way.
I
that you
don't
do.
see them. I seriously, I do not see them.
And in the South,
No.
I mean, it's the strangest thing. Now,
I love that you're
say-
telling me this. This is amazing. This is really
I
cool.
can't say that it's
My-
integrated, though.
my whole life is growing up. I've been next, like side by side by them. It doesn't matter. It's just like
No,
they're-
rarely do
That's the thing,
I
like-
see.
black people are the same as Asian people. We're all the same up in the Northeast. We're all the same.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's still
It's
segregation
amazing.
down there.
I understand it. I completely understand it because it's all about the lack of fucking education, lack of knowledge. Has no one ever heard of Juneteenth? It was in any history book at all. No one wanted you to know
I
that was
can
a
tell you right now. And look, and I'm a very progressive person when it comes. Honestly, up until about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Juneteenth was nothing in my.
I had no idea.
How
I had no
dare
Yeah.
how dare the people
Larry,
in
I
a
did
place
not
in
study
this country, not-
inclusivity.
how
Larry.
dare you not tell us that we cannot celebrate the if there was ever a holiday, right?
Right?
You kidding
Yeah.
me? If there was ever
Yeah,
a
exactly.
holiday,
We've got July 4th. We've got
you know,
July 4th 2
fucking
weeks later.
Christmas and
And-
Easter?
Yeah, July 4th is 2 weeks later, and none of us were even told about Juneteenth. I mean, it's amazing.
Get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Christmas
crazy.
and fucking Easter and July 4th. Get the fuck
And
outta here.
now it's more
Hey,
mainstream because of all this.
Columbus Day.
And that's
Have you ever done? If you ever want to do any kind of research,
Well,
just look up Christopher Columbus.
Oh.
He's the biggest douche that ever lived. Just look up Christopher Columbus.
oh fuck yeah,
He's the
Scott.
biggest-
Scott, did you see the petition for Flavortown?
yes.
Christopher Columbus is the biggest.
Yes,
con-
there's a petition to rename Columbus into Flavortown.
Makes
No,
sense. I'm the job.
No bigger cocksucker than Christopher Columbus. What a douche.
Okay.
All right, Larry.
Well, on that, let's wrap this up, Larry. So, what you got for us?
Whoa, you want the roll wrap up? Ready?
Yep.
Thanks for listening to the Dynasty Hot Sauce Podcast.